Pineapples.
Always pineapple.
Welcome everyone to the Captain's Table. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, your professor on the Astro Historian, and your moderator here at the Captain's Table podcast. As a reminder, those of you just joining us, you can also find us on Spotify and our new home, the Captain's Table Podcast, on YouTube. It's just at the Captain's Table Podcast. So make sure you check us out there. This is currently being broadcast live on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and on youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. Though in the near future, like starting probably in March, I will be broadcasting exclusively this on the new channel. So if you want to continue following this, as you have been following this in the past and watching this live, make sure you watch us on the new channel at the Captain's Table Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, below on the link below, you'll see an at the Captain's Table Podcast. Like, so follow us there. If you click that link, it'll take you directly there, so you can subscribe there and be prepared. And that's where all the recordings and all that kind of stuff will be up there as well. So
if you're not already subscribed, what are you doing?
I don't know. Especially if you've been watching this a lot, because we've got a lot of the spicy takes have been bringing people in apparently. So,
and pineapples as well.
Yeah, pineapples.
Always pineapples.
You know that's actually a symbol, right? For that whole the whole thing you're talking about in the pre-show.
There's actually two reasons for pineapples.
Yes. Oh yeah. One of them is because it used to be like a wealthy thing, so only the wealthy could afford them. So
no,
they would rent them out.
Mine was.
I wonder when we can.
The other one,
dirtier.
No, I know the dirty one. That was the joke.
No. There's two dirty.
Two dirty ones. Okay. Well, we're going to keep that on PC because we're still.
Okay, at least for the first 10 minutes.
Yes.
So so you appease the algorithm, and then we can go dirty.
The prisoner got it. It's at least one of them. All right. Well, with that being said, let's get started on introducing the cast members here today, and we'll be talking a little bit about Star Citizen Cubs. This is a Star Citizen podcast that I've been doing for 9 years now, and we'll start with Zark. Zark, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I'm Zark. I'm a simple player of Star Citizen. I'm an old school citizen, if you like to say so. Been through a lot of the draws, of the ups and downs, and yeah, you can find me on Paul's Discord, and when we are doing our lore expeditions to save the relics from unworthy hands.
Zark is, I will say that Zark is probably the most controversial person who's been on this podcast, next to Vertigo, and who's the other person? Everyone's like, I don't want to be here with it. They're talking. Somebody else, but yeah. So we're gonna.
Hey, I'm trying.
Darj used to be up there, but I think Darj is people like Darj now. You know.
Who doesn't like Darj?
Yeah. You've won over the hearts of the folks. And Radar, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I am, as I usually say, I'm a self-professed Star Citizen uber nerd. I've been a backer since 2012. I'm just really into the game. I'm actually the CEO of a company called MyRadar. We make a popular weather app here in the States. But the connection to Star Citizen is that way back in 2017, we did a collaboration with CIG where you could view the Star Citizen moons and planets in our app. So you could go to our app on your mobile phone and bring up like Yella and zoom around in it. That's what Yella is right here on the hat. That was really kind of fun. I actually gave a talk at the 2017 Citizen Con that you can watch if you are so inclined. You can go on YouTube and look it up and watch it. Came after Ian Leyland's chat on the planet technology.
Ian Leyland, who's still there. He was the one who did the presentation, all the Beyond Pyro stuff. So
yeah, he's moved on up in the world. Yeah, I saw him while I was out there for the convention, actually. You can find me on Blue Sky under A Green, and I'm also trying to work on a YouTube channel for some Star Citizen related content that I wanted to do. Nothing huge, but just spouting my mouth off. That's all.
We're in talks about some cool projects.
Nice.
Involving Star Citizen.
I will also say, if you haven't used MyRadar, there's a couple people in there like, oh wait, I actually have been using that for 10 years. I started using it for the when the Star Citizen thing was announced, and it just never left my phone. It's very good. It has some of the best predictive technologies possible. Like if you are in a place that gets, weather related events like snow or rain, and it kind of comes infrequently, if you're like, I would like to know exactly when it rains so I won't get dumped on. Usually my radar is good within a couple of minutes to when the rain actually starts and stops. Better than Google, in my experience.
It is very good, and I can brag about it because I did not make that component. That was one of the guys at the company, and he's very smart. So it is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Darsh, Prince of Darionator, Prince of Pluto, Emperor of Uranus. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello, I am Darionator, and as previously mentioned, I have many honorifics. I primarily these days am chief modeler at JRDF. Currently not running on any projects right now. I'm between kits. We are because we're currently just running in the background trying to get the European store launched, and the Raven, which hopefully is launching on Valentine's Day for Coramore. But it's getting kind of late for that. Anyway, that's who I am. But
I'm doing 2 seconds. Yeah. If you can't make Coramore,
Darj made the Raven.
I made the Raven.
Yes.
We need to establish that.
Beginning to end. Yes, we have lots of plans for future kits, especially to coincide with the launch of Squadron 42. I don't know what we're gonna do. I'm sure you can make an educated guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were at CitizenCon, you probably already saw the prototype. Hint. But the most important thing is, I have a beer here, and I forgot a bottle opener.
He's gonna go get a bottle opener,
or you open it.
No, I have. I have. I don't want to crush my table, but I have two options.
Do you have a
I have two options. I have two options. I have the CitizenCon 2949 challenge coin, and I have my Star Trek badge. So I'm gonna try using one of these two, and I would like chat to decide which one.
Decide.
The coin is less likely to shatter.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Unfortunately, the brewery that does these has really, really hard caps. It's not just. I don't want to get up. It's very comfortable in this chair. So one of these two. All right, Q-Pan has decided.
Right.
You have a poll up?
I was about to, but you do it. Do it.
All right. Let's see.
Make Starfleet proud.
Oh,
there we go.
Kinda, yeah.
Almost. Quark would be proud. Quark would be proud.
There it is. Ow! Look what it did to my finger. You can because of the pixels, but holy fuck, these are hard. Anyway, cheers.
Cheers. All right, with that, let's talk a little bit about what the heck just happened to Andy?
That was me. Crap! How do I reset it?
You have a small Andy in a corner right now. You've heard of Elf on a Shelf.
Maybe shut it down and restart it.
Yeah, let me try that. It was a mistake. Hold on.
It keeps getting worse.
For those audio listeners, his entire video just is getting slowly smaller and smaller and be putting in the corner.
If I close the tab to the link and come back in, will that'll
yeah, it should help.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me do that. Hold on. All righty then.
That hurt.
We'll wait for Andy to come back, but the topic for today, and there he's back. There we go.
Yay!
All right,
and make sure you mute on the app as well. So that
the link should be chosen to no audio by default, so you're good.
Yeah. So the topic for today is crafting. CIG announced crafting at CitizenCon this last year. We've had versions of crafting in Star Citizen for about a year now, but it's been very basic. It's been mostly your multi-tool and then the different attachments for the multi-tool And that's it. I think there's really nothing else.
MedPen, I believe, as well.
You
Isn't
can
it?
get MedPen, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think they added that recently.
So we've had a couple of those things that have been only attached to salvage ships. So the Reclaimer and the Vulture. I don't know if does the Fortune have one of those as well?
I haven't checked it out yet.
I'd assume it does. Chat may be able to help us, and if you hit this in the comments, please let us know. The chat's saying yes.
Chat says yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we have 3 crafting ships technically, but they are only for very limited. And the crafting that CIG displayed at CitizenCon was very, very extensive in comparison to what we have today. So I'd like to discuss for this episode. We're going to talk a little bit about what crafting is now. Is it good or bad? And as what is CIG proposed? Kind of how will this work based off of what we've seen? Is there any kind of examples of other games doing this sort of thing? What are things that CIG could fall into in terms of pits? And of course, the last question, does it even belong in the Star Citizen universe in playing the game? Does it add to the game? That sort of thing. So we'll start with right now, Darj, starting with you. What do we have now, and do you think it's good in your opinion that what we have as it exists?
Well, what we have right now, I'm guessing, is completely divorced from the underlying system they're about to introduce. And it's just like a little patch for, oh shit, I just went out in my Vulture with my, hospital sperm suit and I have 0 inventory with me, but I need it for, I need my tractor beam.
Yeah, to move boxes.
So, the very basic tool. So they added that just as a little... Band-Aid, which for a Band-Aid, I guess it's good. But it also opens the door for, questions like, why can't we craft this bit? And why can't we craft this bit? And why is it only limited to these 3 things? So, yeah, in that regard, I say it's quite bad. But the plans are good.
Okay. We'll talk about that here in a moment.
I was very excited to what for what they showed off at CitizenCon.
Andy, same thoughts to you. What do we have now, and does it do you think it works? Is it good? Is it something that you should keep in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's clearly a placeholder. Mm-hmm. It's something there to kind of highlight what's going to be possible and give people. Is that me echoing? No, somebody else. Okay.
No, it was me because I can't chat and on the same thing, so I'm on a phone.
Okay. Yeah, they should absolutely leave it in. It was just kind of a placeholder to kind of whet everybody's appetite. I think it definitely had a need and a benefit. I mean, you can craft some of the tools. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something that they put in game and planned and put in game before they had really done all the work on exactly what they wanted their final formal crafting system to look like. So yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think they should keep it in at least for now. And whenever they get to the point where they have a more formal crafting system in place, I hope they don't get rid of this. That functionality is there; it serves a purpose. Those basic tools that you can craft are handy, and if they leave that, in whatever it has to look like, later on, as long as they leave that capability in the game, I think it'd be good. Yeah.
All right. Let me up the volume on my end, because it's not you. It's actually lower the volume on mine, because it gets a little loud. Volume is the ultimate.
It would be interesting if they actually kept the little small fabricators that they already introduced, but as a limited resource, like not ones you can install new blueprints in and just fill with any sort of material you want, but it's basically just the endless supply of the very basic tools that you need on your mission with that particular ship.
Yeah,
there's precedent for other games that have done similar things like that. You have a small crafting backpack where you can make stuff.
And I think Gin and Tonic has worded it quite good. It's more proof of concept. So how does resource consumption and materializing of an item work in game? Because if we're honest, what we have right now is not crafting at all.
That's true.
Just a placeholder, proof of concept. It's not even something we could call tier 0. So while it has its place and probably should stay in there as it is, I think every larger crafting industrial ship should have some sort of
Tool bench.
tool dispenser. Let's call it
Yeah.
tool dispenser. Not really a crafting station, but something. Okay, I can put in some raw materials and I can get my multi-tool out or something. Just in case you forgot something. Great.
Yeah.
But yeah, saying crafting in the game right now, I'm not sure if that's the right wording.
Okay. So you know,
It's a basic replicator.
it's a basic replicator. Yeah. I mean, fabricators are going to be the things. They're basically going to be replicators because they even talked about food fabricators. So it's like, you know, it's Star Citizen Star Citizen version of the replicator. Only you have to feed it
I
materials
so hope
instead of energy.
that food replicators will not be the standard for cooking, because we have so beautiful kitchens in those starships.
Mhm.
I want to use the kitchen, not just Chef Mike.
I think you're going to have the food fabricators as the standard method, and if CIG gets spicy, you know, later on down the line, they'll add cooking. But I think the food fabs are going to be how you cook in Star Citizen. But there'll be some sort of like game associated with it in terms of like what materials you add to get what out of, and we saw the crafting screen of the hot dog, you know, that kind of thing. So
We have what?
you've not seen it?
No.
They showed it at CitizenCon. There was a CitizenCon where they literally showed the crafting screen of a hot dog.
Well, yeah. Well, oh, right. I mean, it. Yeah, but it was
It was
the exact same crafting screen as for the pistol. It was a proof of concept.
But
They also showed, I think, 4 different crafting machines for like weapons, for food,
Components.
and for I think chemicals, for like maybe
I think
fertilizing stuff or something.
There was something like that where they showed the different sizes and that meant for different purposes. But the point was is that like the reason why they did that was part of a hard joke. Here's a hot dog, but it was also to
Which is not the first time they did that joke.
No, they did that with the whole A, didn't they? With the giant hot dog and the whole A.
Yes, but before that, they also used the burrito and the hot dog as the placeholders for the trains at Microtech.
Oh yeah. But the point that they even said, yes, you will be able to fabricate food with this same material. So
I mean,
you know, that's part of that as well. I'll kind of echo as Chad also pointed out, you can create fuses with it too, which is new. So
yeah.
And since fuses are brand new, it's clear that CIG is going to keep this around until they have crafting in, because they're just going to keep adding things. And the idea of it being sort of a proof of concept to test if, you know, you could add material, use material as a sort of a, like, material go in, material go down, then material then that material becomes thing that is then it materialized in a bucket, and then you open the bucket and you see thing. It's just sort of a basic, you know, crafting where you don't see much and you but it uses a resource and that kind of thing. So
I wonder if in that case it actually is already connected to like the underpinnings of the crafting system that they're going to be introducing.
Don't think so, because we are missing all the grades and material values.
Sure, but like just the fact of taking, you know, hooking into an amount of resource, reducing it by a set amount, and then creating an entity with its own ID that it can be streamed in. You know, that low end.
Dash, I'm very cynical, but isn't that describing the process of shooting a rifle? I take a resource, create an entity.
But the entity already exists. Bullets actually exist.
Yeah, the bullets already exist when they're bought. You know, as soon as you buy a magazine, you are given a magazine that it has an own ID, and every bullet inside it has its own ID. And when you shoot it, you just move it. But this is actually creating an entity with its unique ID.
If you really wanted to split hairs, this is the most simplistic way they could have engineered crafting on the back end that you could imagine. They're not doing anything other than deducting a number from the amount of ore in a hopper, which is a number, and instantiating a new object that they already have a vast library of. So there's really nothing complicated going on here under the covers.
Yeah.
And it was it existed before the current system was put in place for for the resource system. It was there. It's been there for a while. So
True.
So I don't
True.
think it's connected to the resource system.
Yeah.
I think it will be, and that may be, and that may actually be tier 0, where they're like, we already have this system in place. We already have the resources in place. The resource system in place.
Hot take.
Let's put them together and see what happens. But we'll see.
I don't think crafting is very complicated as a system from a programming standpoint, because as Annie said, it's deduct A, create B.
Yeah.
The big thing, or the big workload, is really the whole recipes. I mean, what did they say? 1,000 recipes?
Yeah.
Where do I get them? How do they
That
work?
and probably
What
the UI.
materials do they use?
Yeah.
Where do I get the materials? All those logistics and splitting it off.
Yeah.
That was going to be my point, is like, crafting doesn't matter unless you have also the resource gathering
It's a game.
put into place.
Yeah.
It's part of
Like
the
for
game.
all the materials, like you're gonna have thousands of blueprints. You're gonna have hundreds of different materials, and then material grades as well. Yeah.
So that kind of leads into another question. What is CIG doing? Like we know, we've seen people who've watched the whole thing.
Oh, that is a loaded question. Oh my fucking.
What are they
CIG
doing? We've seen CitizenCon, right? And I've seen enough people who watched the CitizenCon broadcast, and I say, there's crafting coming in the game, and they said, no, there isn't. And I say, and I'm like, but it is. They said it, and they're like, no, that was base building. And so.
So they didn't watch the entire video then?
Yeah.
Apparently not.
So, but it's clearly like confusing to some people. So, I'll ask this: is crafting and base building, are they two separate things, or are they the same thing? I'll start with you.
They are not two separate things.
Okay.
So, base building is practically an extension of crafting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because so crafting is in the Citizen, as well as in any other game, always the procedure of gather resources, create item.
Yeah.
Base building is the exact same thing. If we just look at the process, there's no difference between crafting a pistol in the Citizen and building a space station.
The only caveat there is that you're placing the building, whereas anything else you craft is going to come out of a hopper. Or something. But you're right.
Yeah. Right. So like when you're crafting, you create an item that is physicalized that you can grab and put into inventory, but a base you have to put down and it becomes part of the environment.
Oh God,
so
that's going to be a
to his point. That there's very little.
But that's the only difference, and it doesn't really matter. So crafting, so base building is part of crafting. That's the first thing, and we definitely get crafting. What will be interesting, I say, is what they haven't shown us. And that's the whole aspect of the rumored survival crafting, which Chris talked 8 years ago or something. How does crafting work without stations? That's the thing we don't know yet, but we are pretty aware of what CIG's plan is, what normal crafting is supposed to look like. Very industrialized, very sci-fi, because different than in your usual MMO, you don't go to your crafting station and you have to stand there with your character until you're done. You go to the machine, you press a button, machine is doing the work, you can go and drink a coffee.
Yeah, everything will be 3D printed. Yeah.
That's how it's. We talk about it. It's a Star Trek replicator. It's a Star Trek replicator. It's going to be the door goes down. You're going to see some flashing lights and some stuff, and then suddenly, ta-da! Hot dog. You know, it's you're not going to see the whole
now
process.
I want a hot dog with RGB.
But I was funny because you said like that the differences between crafting and base building is that base building you won't be able to put in your inventory, and I'm like, that's going to be a bug. That's going to be one of those bugs. You build a building, you walk up to the building, and you can take the building and put it into your inventory.
I have a small hab in my backpack.
Yeah.
Is that a hab in your backpack?
You just happen to see. You'd be like, oh no, we're in a dangerous situation. We need crafting. Don't worry, I got this. Pulls out factory.
Oh, but that's just the Star Citizen version of the bag of holding.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a quantum singularity on it.
A pocket dimension, yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we know what the Hadesians were working on.
Yes. Radar, same question to you. Like, is crafting and base building, are they the same thing? Are they different?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of been battering that around here for a while, but yes, they are essentially under the hood. They're the same thing. You're just crafting different things, and like I said before, if crafting an object is going to come out of a machine or a hopper, whereas crafting base building is going to be something that you wind up having a separate UI where you're planting the building down. You're still going to need ingredients or resources for it. It may not be, I don't know if it was clear that you need to have a schematic to build it. I guess probably you would
For
have
building?
to.
You have
But
to.
yeah, for building buildings. But like
Everything
you'll need
works with
resources and
blueprint.
everything else. And yeah. Essentially it's the same thing, really.
Do you have anything else to add, Darj? Because we kind of jumped all over that one. So
Because we kind of skipped the whole.
good discussion. Good
what was-
discussion. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good. We can do that.
No,
I will also go ahead.
no, just gonna just parrot the whole point that it's part of crafting. It's like, but it's like people who say that the base building is coming, but not crafting is like they skip the entire like 5-minute segment when they showed off the screenshot of the pistol fabricated. Is that
That was
a
the bathroom
pistol
break.
shaped
With a
building that they're
meme?
building?
With a historical meme they added that no one got but me for some reason. The bad
That was
copper.
the bathroom break.
The bad
The bad
copper.
co-
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
more people got it.
And Nasir.
And Nasir, yeah. And Nasir and
the
his
thing
bad
is-
copper.
Even I didn't
thing
get
is,
that. I needed a tip on that one.
Yeah.
I believe I know the answer to your question.
Hmm.
We already know and have well established that Star Citizens cannot read.
Gamers don't read, and So as soon as that came up, it was like a blind spot.
Yeah.
Yes. So
This
like,
sign
might be
can't
that-
stop me because I can't read.
So might be that some people start to develop new elements now that Star Citizen got more and more visual over the last few years. So there was less excuse with I can't read it or I did not read it. So people need new excuses. So maybe they develop blindness.
Just sectional blindness. Guess what I was going to say. So say something about base building and crafting. I agree with everybody that it's going to be they're kind of the same thing to a degree. It was about the blueprints. So blueprints, we know that blueprints are the key to everything because they even mentioned it in the last 3-hour Star Citizen Live. Jared mentioned that one of the
I'm still about halfway through that only, so please no spoilers. Too many spoilers, please.
the only spoiler I'll say is they mention the item returning system, the item retention system.
That was yes.
And at the end of that discussion,
As soon as possible, yeah.
And they mentioned that the one that we're going to get is version 1 of 3 versions that they're working on. That's version 1, and then there's going to be another version, and the last version is instead of giving you the item back, they give you a blueprint.
So you can just rebuild it
yourself.
The big question I have is, so I assume there will be 2 different versions for the unique item recovery. The first one will be some sort of insurance, simply because people will go nuts if you say, if you want your unique item, you have to go crafting. And I say, I don't want to do crafting, so no,
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Yeah.
I hope you're right, because you never
and-
know, like what if they have like really hard to get components for these things?
So that's the second question. If we can craft them, and it's supposed to be an easy recovery, and I mean, I know a couple of games that have like you add a token scrap into rebuild your unique item. That's fine if you don't trade. But what if I go and say, hey, my orc, I've got this cool subscriber armor or this cool store-bought armor. Come here. I have equipment for all of you and for 2,000 other people.
So I think they did mention that there will be crafting limits, count limits on some of the blueprints, and I know the blueprints themselves certainly can't be transferred. So that may wind up playing a role in that. I'm sure CIG thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean-
that is the main reason why it's been taking so long, is because every system they kind of figure out how they're going to implement unique item
Yep.
recovery is they need to also create a system to prevent duping.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
we went from like the lost and found desk, and then lockers, and then kiosks, and now fabrication. But everything has a potential for duplication. And then you have a dupe system, and you sell it on the gray market to other people, and then you keep duping, and then you keep getting it back. And then, yeah,
I mean,
I
I'll be honest.
understand completely.
I have no problem with crafting multiples of the subscriber gear. For example, the Ripper's SMG. I love that gun. I would instantly craft 100 of those, and I would share this throughout the org simply because that gun is awesome. The question is, they have to balance this, and that's why I think it's so important that we have some sort of recovery, or maybe the first gun you craft every week is only one scrap or something, and then if you have to use the normal components, some sort of balance they need to do. So because I think
it could.
I was going to say
One
that
thing-
that I think the real thing that it could be doing, that because they mentioned it, I could see that as being a bonus. So rather than being the replacement for getting a replacement, it could be and you get a way to craft it yourself and then make it on your own and sell it as you want if you want to. So it's just something you get as a subscriber gear. So you could make it and sell it on the market if you want to, but because
then nobody would subscribe.
then no one would subscribe. There's got to be other
spicy
reasons,
question.
But
Here's a spicy question. Do you believe you're entitled to the item in perpetuity just because you paid real life money for it?
Yes,
Absolutely.
That
was the
But what
premise
if
you were given when you bought it.
Yeah.
But what if your phone breaks after 2 years and you're out of warranty?
So
Are you entitled for a replacement?
Not a replacement.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
Slightly different answer. I think in case of FPS items that are usually less worth, I wouldn't mind if they get lost. The big problem is getting them back. And I think even if somehow those things could get lost forever, would be fine. Ships, whole different topic. But FPS gear would be okay if we lose it, but the issue is there needs to be a way to recover it, at least in the midterm. If at some point you degraded your blueprint or something because you crafted 1 billion Ripper SMGs, okay. For the game itself, I think it's better if they just say subscriber gear, store-bought items, just keep them in perpetuity, or at least have a way to regain them inside the game, be it through insurance or through crafting. Simply because if they don't do this, there will be a shitstorm.
So what I wanted to get at is there needs to be some way of them limiting how many times or how many items you can get from your blueprint. So if you buy the blueprint for $5, it's like you make 100 of them and then the blueprint expires.
I disagree with you.
The blueprint you get,
okay.
or they put cooldowns on blueprints, so you can only build one once every couple of days.
Gosh, I disagree with you there because, so some blueprints, I mean, they already alluded to that some blueprints can only be used once because there's it's a bangle carrier and you only build this thing once or something. But if we stay in the realm of normal blueprints, normal FPS equipment especially, I don't think you need to have any sort of limit on building it, even subscriber item. I mean, it's then a question of what materials do you use, because CIG can make each item within the game as expensive as they want, depending on the material composition needed to craft it. And if you decide, okay, I bought a Pioneer, but I'm not doing base building, I'm just spitting out armor, FPS armor. I have 4 fabricators. One is always crafting the helmet, one is always crafting the arms, one the torso, one the legs. They run 24/7, and I crank out 1,000 pieces of armor a week. If you can source the materials, if you can sell that and make a profit, that's a valid game plan. And I'll be honest, one of the biggest things starting in Pyro, where I had some money but nothing to buy, is you appreciate the idea of crafting. When you can say, okay, I am a system, I have some infrastructure, but I have troubles procuring enough ammo for any FPS mission. I have troubles securing a good armor or an armor I want. And then someone goes here and says, hey, look in my inventory, I crafted hundreds of SCU of ammunition. Buy if you want.
Okay.
No, but look, so my point isn't about just regular items, like something you could buy in a shop, as many as you want. I'm talking about unique items, stuff that that in the first place entices you to subscribe. That something that you can get in store, that is a variant, or a unique skin or something like that.
Again, I don't see the need to limit it, because
I'm with
thing
Zark.
is-
I think I know what you're talking about, and I'll kind of bump out this one, and we'll move on from this because we talked about this a lot. It's good, but we're gonna move on to talking about blueprints themselves and how they function and how y'all think that that's a good idea or not. But I think the what Zark is trying to say, and what I agree with him, if this is what he's trying to say, is that if I have a red custodian, that's really cool, right? And it's part of a subscriber gear, and I can just make as much as I want to and give it to anybody I want to. I don't know if that matters as much, because it's like, oh yeah, well then you could also purchase purchase a subscriber store. So well then no people purchase a subscriber store, but it's not really meant as a purchase. It's meant as a perk for subscribing.
Mhm.
And I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters as much, because what happens if I have my red custodian, and somebody who's better than me gets drops on me, knocks me out or kills me, and then takes my red custodian, and I get a new one? Does it matter?
But
And
so
I mean,
it's just a
okay, but on the
custodian
other
that's
hand,
red.
would the uniqueness of that particular red custodian with the, like, I don't know, the CitizenCon logo on it,
Mhm.
to make that unique version, would it make sense for them to have a unique component that
Possibly.
otherwise, like that is on top of the regular custodian blueprint?
I mean, that okay.
But then, like
let's-
Paul said,
all right.
if it gets stolen and you want it back immediately,
But-
you would need to go on a hunt for that component that's
but
going to take you months.
if we keep to the red custodian, I think that's less a question of subscriber gear and more a question of how does applying a skin will work in the game. We've seen the whole thing with the orc
Okay,
logos.
All right.
So-
We're moving on.
Anyway,
We're moving on.
yeah,
I am
yeah,
cutting this
yeah.
off right now. We're moving on. Stop it. This is what Zark and Darj do on their own. They just go off on wild tangents. So, but we're talking about blueprints, which is a good thing to talk about anyways. When we're talking about blueprints,
Also, Andy hasn't said anything in about 10 minutes, so I feel like
he's just
it's
enjoying
turn to
the
talk.
weird discussion.
I think that's a question that's going to have to be answered by CAG, because I think they're having the same debate you guys are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As Jared said, they always have the same debates we have. So this is definitely something that's going to come
Just
up.
3 weeks earlier, yeah.
So
Like, I don't think they have the answer yet, is what I mean.
No.
Yeah. Otherwise, we would have the item recovery in game by now already.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter early on, because the first version of the item recovery is just going to be, it's back. Here you go. Maybe a timer, something like that. But we're talking about blueprints. For those of you who don't know, blueprints is going to be how everything is going to be working in Star Citizen. So if you're going to be crafting, you need a blueprint ahead of time. They haven't been clear as to if some things are going to be universal blueprints where everyone's going to have access to it, or you know, maybe it's you have to buy it, maybe you have to acquire it. We don't really know. But I want to hear your thoughts. I'll start with you on this one, Darj. What are your thoughts on the blueprint system as it stands?
Oh, geez.
Goods and bads.
I don't think we've
What's
heard.
some pitfalls they might throw into, you know? Because we also know they're going to be lootable. So
Yeah. Lootable. For basic stuff, I feel like there should just be like a dime a dozen. Like you can actually go into a store and buy a blueprint. Just if you want to build, I don't know, just your basic bitch arc-light pistol. Yeah, it's going to cost a lot more than just the pistol, but yeah, why not? Maybe it would make sense for all the blueprints to be reputation gated. So you need to have at least some standing with the whatever the crafting guild is, if you want to purchase the blueprints, so you can legally become part of the manufacturing chain within the guild. Otherwise, sure, lootable, stealable, tradable, where outside the system. I feel like that should also exist as a possibility. In terms of, like we mentioned before, like temporary blueprints. That is, yeah, that's unfortunately something that will have to exist. Just like you can't have a blueprint that just lets you build an infinite amount of Bengal carriers.
But would that
why
just
not?
To put it in there, because the amount of resources to build a Bengal carrier are
massive. That's the sink is the resources.
Yeah, but
and the infrastructure.
Okay,
but it's not shouldn't be the
You
only
have-
sink. It shouldn't be the only sink.
Sorry, let Darj finish.
Yeah, it shouldn't be the only sink. Okay, but potentially there is. So years ago, they said there will be one Bengal carrier in the game that you'll be able to. Yeah. So potentially they transpose that to one golden Bengal carrier blueprint.
We'll see.
That which can be stolen, and if one org has it and another org wants it, they'll want to then infiltrate their bases and want to steal it.
I think for Star Citizen to grow, they can't do that. That's very limiting. With such a large universe.
No. I don't mean like there's going to be one. There will be more blueprints that let you build a limited amount of Bengal carriers, but there will be one blueprint that lets you build an unlimited amount of Bengal carriers. You see what I mean? So that'll be the most venerable item that you can get in the game.
I get what you're saying. My thought is the better off. The universe is going to be so big. I don't think the need to have a single blueprint is the way to go, because then it concentrates the power in too many, in the hands of too few people, to one few org, I guess I could say. They're better off to have time and resource sinks in it to make it that would be the challenge, to make sure that we're not overrun with Bengals every 5 feet.
Oh, sure. But like I said, it should be more. There should be more things instead of just the material needs.
I mean, they said you can only build one Bengal carrier, or they alluded. I mean, they didn't confirm we can build a Bengal carrier. They only alluded to it, and they only alluded that it will be a single-use blueprint. But they never said you can't regain the blueprint. So even if you get the blueprint, build your Bengal carrier, there's nothing that stops you from regaining this blueprint, as far as I interpret this. So you have your time sink. And the simple reason is, I mean, let's be honest, we've seen enough crazy things in this community. If you had a blueprint with unlimited Bengals, they would just dump them out.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing to think about. The resource sink is multidimensional. It's not just a matter of gathering the resources. It could also be that in order to build a Bengal, one of the resources is very rare or doesn't spawn frequently. And that means CIG controls the switch as to how many of them can be built. And it doesn't have to be one resource; it could be a series of them. But.
There could be, as you said, Darsh, like a special resource that you can only get from a certain place. Like you have to be able to build and it could. We're also thinking about one resource, one blueprint. I'm going to introduce an idea which is going to probably it's almost certainly been thought of at CIG. But what if blueprints are not one blueprint, but multiple blueprints? Not just so you'd need like a blueprint to build the Bengal hull and a blueprint to build the interiors and a blueprint to build like the reactor and that kind of stuff.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about in my response to the question.
Go ahead.
So I'm very opinionated on this because I've been playing a bunch of different MMOs over the decades, and they've CIG has. I think the blueprint, to answer the question, the blueprint idea is very good.
Okay.
There's plenty of case studies that CIG can draw from to learn from how other people have implemented it and where they failed and where they succeeded. Star Wars Galaxies is a great one to follow, and I believe, based on what I saw, that they're really closely following that example, and I'll touch on that in a minute. New World has one, even Ashes of Creation has one, but it's got some limiting factors in it. When you go to craft in some of the modern MMOs, they only have like 3 or 4 tiers of resources. So when you go to make your sword, you can pick common steel, rare steel, epic steel, or legendary steel, that kind of thing. The reason why that's kind of good in the sense that it makes it simplistic, but the problem is you can only ever make a legendary sword. The way Star Wars Galaxies did it and how CIG is kind of copying it, resources have a value from 0 to, say, 1,000, which means you can always be on this quest to search for better steel. And that's what I think was one of the biggest succeeding characteristics in Star Wars Galaxies, because you had these vendors that would set up shop all over the galaxy on different planets, and each one was always able to continually strive to have the best pistol or whatever it was they were making, because they would go on the hunt for the highest quality ore or resources that would go into it. And that becomes important because that's what allows you to establish an in-game, reputation for being the best builder. There are also some good, and so to touch on what you were talking about, there are some other good examples of what not to do. One of the games that I played for a while was Dual Universe, and I loved it for a while. It was a great game when it first started, but it started off in a beta before they had really ironed out all of the mechanics of the game. And they had a blueprint system. Oh, well, no, let me back up. They had a manufacturing system that worked exactly the way you describe it. In order to build a ore processing system, you'd have to go out and get a metal frame and a heater and all the little various subcomponents. So you had to manufacture those components, and in many cases, those subcomponents needed different manufacturing machines to craft. Mm-hmm. So the sync there was that you always had to start with the most basic resource, which was like a transistor or a relay or something, and then work your way up from there to build the bigger components that would then allow you to get to that final refinery thing that you wanted to build.
I'm getting Minecraft Feed the Beast flashback.
Well,
right
so
now.
This is where they dropped the ball. This is where they dropped the ball because everyone at that point loved crafting so much that it became, instead of a space exploration and combat game, everything else fell by the wayside. Everybody went all out to set up these enormous factories that were set up on automation to craft all the components, and it was really elaborate, but it became crafting 101.
Satisfactory.
And nothing else. Yeah, satisfactory. So here's where they dropped the ball. Here's where they failed. The way they decided to fix it was to make it so that you needed a blueprint or a recipe in order to craft every single component, and you had to buy each one. And some of them were outrageously expensive. So all the people who had gone through all the effort to set up their manufacturing factories, hours and weeks and days to set them up, suddenly could not work them anymore because they couldn't afford to buy the blueprints. And they realized that they had made a mistake in the mechanic early on, at that point during the beta, but their fix caused usage to drop off a cliff and the game never recovered. So there are lots of different examples to draw from with regard to crafting. I think the Star Wars Galaxy model definitely is the best. there are other models out there that you can see that are kind of basic and simplistic, and there are little pieces you can take from that. From what I saw at the presentation at SitCon, I really think they are trying to do exactly that. That's what you always do. Stand on the shoulders of other people. They've done the work. They've made their mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and then try to take the best of what they do and put it into something even better. And I think that's where we're at. That's where I'm hoping we're going to end up with CIG's side of things. The blueprints become a tangible way to have an asset that you can either give out at special events, or you can earn it as a reward, or you can find on a ship someplace. There's all sorts of gameplay you can create just with the blueprints. So I think that's a phenomenal way to do it.
Yeah.
Zark, your thoughts on the blueprints?
I think most has already been said.
Okay.
Um,
do you like the idea? Do you think it's a good idea, a bad idea?
yeah. I mean, let's face it, the blueprint system is like any recipe system in any other MMO. It's a basic staple. It does work. The big question, there are two things I wonder about. The first thing is they said that for crafting higher gear items, you need more complex components, which is great. The question I have is, how do you get them? Can I go to my crafting machine and just craft the components for tier 4 weapon? Well, tier 3 weapon in that case, and then just continue to craft it. Where do I store this? So it's more of the logistics side of things. Where do I get those more complicated components? And I also think that we will have some sort of base recipes just unlocked. Like, I mean, you can't even start crafting, if we're honest, if you don't have at least some basic recipes. Worse, if you try to start in the base building profession, and you want to earn reputation there, you need some sort of basic buildings that are just available. And you build them, you build basic items, then you get reputation, you unlock more, you buy blueprints on the market from other players, you loot them, whatever. Again, the big question is, how does the more complex component side of things work? In most games, it's usually, okay, you go to a higher tier, you'll know the level X smith or something, and then you have the ability to use iron and coal and make steel, for example, and then you can use steel. And the question is, how does this work in the Citizen? Especially considering how tedious logistics is. I mean, I have no idea if any of you tried to loot a couple of corpses lately in Pyro. It's a pain in the butt because you have to move the corpses into your ship, you have to unclothe them, then you have to place all the boxes on your item grid and so on. And if I have to do this with 100 boxes of crafting materials,
That's true.
that can be very tedious. So I'm more interested in the logistics, because the blueprint system itself is, in my opinion, great as it is, especially with the values of the different materials. Again, this allows for you to craft what you need. Because if I don't need the best pistol, like Andy said, I can just dump some crappy iron into the crafting machine and get a basic pistol that just does the job. And if I'm in Pyro, a crappy pistol that does its job is all I want, all I need right now. I don't need some fancy tier 3 special full maxed out pistol.
What you're talking about is the difference between raid gear, dungeon gear, PvP gear, and grind gear. To grind out, you just need a pistol.
I just had a thought.
Go ahead.
Because Zark mentioned pistols for Pyro. that pyro SMG that's built out of that looks like it was cobbled together from various other parts. Do you think
with the shotgun?
Do you think they would go the lengths of actually requiring those parts being requirements for instead of raw materials?
Possibly.
I personally,
but could there actually be like a different tier of crafting where you put in a part that you don't want anymore
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like-
instead of raw
recycling?
material.
I totally.
Yeah.
So like upgrading.
think-
Upgrading.
Well, kind
I
of like
think
your gun is busted because we're all gonna have everything's gonna have degradation centers. So like say your gun is just worn out, the firing pin doesn't work anymore, repairing it would cost a lot of money, or you could scrap it and then all of that gun could then be used to make a new gun. So the parts of it are that, so you have a brand new one, and maybe it's a better one because you've done some research and you have a new that you're doing that. So you've got a tier 2 version of that gun. Can you just put that tier 1 in there and then pop it in there?
They touched on that whole idea of upgrading tiered weapons items. I thought so. Maybe that's what they weren't very clear on it, but maybe that's what they're trying to say.
So I think there could be two ways this could work. The first way is you can store certain components inside the crafting machine, and if you craft those components, they just get stored in an internal
Buffer.
cargo grid.
Yeah.
And the other way is if we can upgrade weapons, that means we have to put those weapons inside. So if I have a multi-tool, I put it in, I can create the Ripper SMG. And I think this might actually be one of the starting points for getting your first good gear later on, because weapons like the Ripper SMG and other weapons that are, in essence, scrabble together guns, bastardizations of tools that you can buy rather cheap and that you can just repurpose, might be the way to go. I mean, multi-tool, if it stays as it is, it's the most common thing you can find. And if I can just dump it in a crafting system, throw in, I don't know, maybe some more energy cells of the multi-tool, and I get the Ripper SMG, I'm happy. That's a great recipe. I mean, the weapon is awesome right now. It's probably not really balanced, but at the same time, it has some clear limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, visually, it reads more than just the power cells from the multi-tool.
Yeah, you probably have to throw in a couple of orbits that get repurposed in a.
I think like the front bit itself is straight.
It looks like a couple of orbits, to be honest. Like
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It might also be something from the true hold tractor beam, that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's cobbled together.
But it also has the little spinny thing that Gemini weapons have.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So
let's move on to the last one because we're coming up on the end of the hour, and usually I'd like to keep this not a tight 1 hour, but a loose 1 hour. So
4 more years.
Please don't say that. Please don't say that.
I have two more questions, but I'll kind of go over my opinion on this. I think the blueprints. I think what Radar is striking out is what I believe CIG is trying to do, which is Star Wars Galaxies. And the thing that is important to understand about Star Wars Galaxies is that I've seen some discussion in chat, which I agree with. I like survival games, but the most unimmersive part of survival games is the fact that one person can go from a rock to an AK-47 and know all of the parts about in between, all of the steps between the two, between the beginning and the end, within like a couple of hours. There's even if you slowed that down, that would still be like an insane process to learn how to fabricate metal, and like I think Minecraft, and there's certain Minecraft mods that do it pretty well, where it's like, and like Satisfactory, where like you have to learn all of the processes, and it's a complicated process and requires the right machines and everything else like that. But I think with a game like Star Citizen, it needs to emphasize specialties. That players need to focus on what they want to do, not locked into it, but the more time you put into it, the better you get at it. Thus, your
small tension, Paul, on that part. I think this could be a great reward for getting reputation with the Hunter Guild. That you can, for one, earn like a carryable crafting station, something that comes with a backpack. And that you can learn recipes for repurposing certain
basic stuff.
Basic stuff, yeah. And I mean, like repurposing the multi-tool into a gun, repurposing sticks and stones into a spear, or something.
Into something that I can actually break your bones.
But those are fine. What I'm talking about is like the idea that one person will be able to get to the point where they can build a full bangle carrier on their own. Like that idea.
Okay,
is
that's
stupid.
That'll never happen.
That'll
Yeah,
never
I
happen with the
think
system.
There will
you
be
would govern
one.
that with the quantity of resources, making it impractical for any one human to be able to gather all that.
But
But let me ask you this, Paul, because I agree with what you're saying, and Ashes of Creation has something that's similar to that because they break down their skills by categories. If CIG wanted to try to continue to take their path and stay away from the idea of having skills, how would you do that? How would you have specialties?
it would just
That would make it so you-
that's comes into the next question that CIG already introduced, which is research.
Okay.
So, like, because we're not talking about locking into a specialties. We already know how research that you need to do some certain research and certain tasks, and those tasks will then unlock a different tier of gear, or you unlock stuff that you can do that. So it's all built into the gameplay already. And that's where I was going to say that I think that way you're not locked into a leveling system, but you still have to invest time into that. And
Did you provide a reason for the Endeavor?
I mean, Cult of the Endeavor, High Priest of the Cult
Crew,
of the Endeavor.
Take note, John Crew.
Yeah, I've said that for a while. I've said that the Endeavor should be a colony ship, and it should basically be able to do anything a new colony would need: crafting, base building, research, and development.
I was looking towards the research because the research is a very good way to accomplish what you were just talking about without having skills in the game.
Yeah.
But there's one important thing the Endeavor can't do that every colony ship should be able to do. It cannot land. Safely, at least.
Well, I don't know. They do have a front. They do have like a nice little front, like excursion vehicle, so they can.
But one of the tropes about colony ships is that they land and then get converted into the colony.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to do that though. But that goes into the next question though, because CIG has talked about things like reputation adding to your ability to get blueprints, but also research being a big part of upgrading, where you have to do certain tasks, on a list which is randomized or chosen, and those things will allow you to then add to more research to your to a specific tier to improve the tier of any given item. What is your
craft 100 daggers to upgrade your smithing?
Yeah. That's
like in Skyrim.
Like in Skyrim, or enchant a bunch of. There's the one. What is it in Skyrim? The blue butterfly wings and the blue mountain flowers makes you can, if you get those two, because they're really easy to get in the early ways, they sell for like 200 gold a piece, and you can just sit there and grind them out, and you can get insane levels in alchemy, that kind of thing. But there is going to be some gamification. This is let's start off with that. It's a game, so you're going to need some
fun.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have some gamification in there, even if it's CIG hand wavium, sort of like it exists for this reason, whatever. But with that all in mind, Zark, I'll start with you. What is your thoughts on how CIG's presented research thus far?
So let's assume there's a certain special copyright law system in Star Citizen that prevents sharing blueprints and so on. So that's all fine. The research, I mean, it's necessary. It's not even just that I say, okay, it's gamifying, it's some sort of progress. It's necessary for you as a crafter, because if you buy your crafting shift, the Smithery 5000 from Argo, okay? You have your crafting tool. You have your crafting bench in the bag, maybe 2 or 3. And you are only interested in crafting weapons. Your game loop would be now complete. Everything you do is maybe try to get all blueprints for all weapons. But you have nothing actually to achieve if we don't take research in mind. If we add research to this, the game changes, because now it's okay. I need to craft these pistols with these attributes. In-game sense might be, okay, the machine needs to learn how the pistol works differently, and then it can produce a higher grade one or something. But now you have something to do as a crafter. You have to go around and look for the material with the right grade. So that's the first part.
It's not just a material with the right grade. They also noticed that like there will be some substitute materials that you could use.
Yeah,
Like if you used copper or steel or tungsten, that would differently adjust certain attributes of the same weapon,
yeah,
even though you're making the same subpart of a gun, for instance.
yeah. The gun has 4 materials, and depending on what value each has, the values are different on the gun. But if the research says, okay, you need 10 guns, one has to has at least that much firepower. You have to figure out how to do this. So now you have agency. Now you as a crafter, if you want to really specialize in those weapons, you have to do something. You have a reason to play, not just say, hey, I already got the blueprint for every gun, I don't have anything to do. No, you actually have to go down, look for the material, craft it, develop further. Maybe, and they didn't talk about this, but I wouldn't put it past CIG. Maybe if you have fully upgraded a weapon to tier 3, you could go for experimental materials. Like, what does change if I substitute iron with steel? How does this affect the weapon? Maybe something like that would be the next iteration. And
I think that's already part of it.
yeah,
They
and
they
the other
did
side
mention you
is
can swap out a different kind of material. Yeah.
yeah, and the other side is it does help the diversity within the game, because other games usually have a very artificial limiting, like you can only be 2 different professions in, let's say, World of Warcraft. You can only be a smith and a miner. Okay. In Star Citizen, we don't have the artificial limitations, but research takes time. No idea if you can game the system by researching 4 different things at the same time on different crafting stations. Who knows? But it forces you, at least in the early game, to make a commitment. Like you can say, okay, first of all, I want to learn all blueprints that are relevant for my game style. For example, I want to know how to craft max lift tractor beam. I want to know how to craft medium mining armor. I want to know how to craft fuses. And I want to know how to craft an SMG. Okay, that's what you first focus on. And then you say, okay, I want to go down the route of armor. I want to focus completely on armor. And then you learn more armor blueprints because your bases are covered. But because the research takes time, you can't just do all at once.
Can I
You-
interject here a little bit? Have
Go
they
ahead.
actually
Yeah,
talked
sure.
about research yet?
Yes, they have.
Because I don't remember hearing anything about it.
See, this is what I mean. It was in the same discussion. They talked about how
Really?
Yeah.
they had
Yeah.
different. They
It,
had,
but it's not like this nebulous research where you just go out and then and do science like they did in Star Trek. You're actively
task.
just experimenting with the blueprints to upgrade them, upgrade a
Really?
certain part of a blueprint
Mhm.
or the
They talked
entire
about this
blueprint.
because I didn't get that at all. Yeah, I gotta have to
Oh,
watch
so I
this
was
again.
sitting next to you when they were
I
talking
know.
about this.
I got to be a bathroom break. Got to be what it was.
It was so yeah.
Or
So
I was out getting another hot dog.
for those
Yeah,
who don't
it's like you
Uh,
have so
go ahead.
sure, Paul.
So basically, it's you to upgrade this. You need to do certain tasks to upgrade this blueprint. So some of it is like it might be go chart this star or do these sort of do
Bless
this
you.
activity. You know, go mine a bunch of rocks, build a bunch of these things, and then that will unlock the research. And then the part for that research gets added to the blueprint is unsure, but they did talk about the idea of having some sort of, science-based or some science like device that you then feed this you go to use all this information, and then it
Okay.
crafts that
Is
updated
that
blueprint.
kind of how Starfield works? Starfield
Kind
crafting?
of, yeah. That's kind of how Starfield works, where you have to get specific resources and then use those specific resources to upgrade specific things to unlock other things. But that requires
Okay.
resources to fit into it. In this case, it's less of a resource and more of an activity-based thing. So it can lead to some weird things like go kill 50 people with this gun, and now suddenly this gun is, you can find a higher version of it. It's still the kill 50 boars
Well,
quests,
it-
but
yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like you actually put in the time of firing the gun at
Learning how it
stationary or
works.
moving targets, and then you realize like what thing you need to fiddle with to make it better, and or what material to add or what grade material to add to to improve what you're looking
I
at.
don't think there will be those kind of missions. I don't think there will be kill 50 guys with this gun. I think it will
They
always
showed it in the screenshot.
yeah, they did.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only remember the build 10 pistols and one with a firing rate of X. That's the one I remember.
Yeah, the other one was get some 50 NPC kills with
I'm not sure if this will say, because it feels very strange to have a crafting industrial profession requiring you to kill people.
yeah. It was all Photoshop.
Yeah, it was
mock-ups,
definitely mock-ups.
I mean, on the other hand, it would generate work for bounty hunters, because then you can say, hey, bounty hunters, I'm paying for 50 NPCs. I want them bound
to
and
be
gagged,
killed
and...
with these guns. Yeah.
No, because you have to kill them, so they get bound and gagged.
Oh, test subjects.
and you just have to kill them. Tick, 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 tick.
Easy there, Zark Hurston. All right, calm down. Right on. Your thoughts on any of these systems?
I want a GLaDOS in this game.
What are your thoughts on this sort of idea of
I feel kind of
hey, Addison opened the door with AI, being on the table again.
Yes, testing subject number 1. I feel kind of ignorant because I didn't even know what research was in the game until just recently. But I think you kind of touched on it earlier, and it's true. You shouldn't. There has to be some kind of game mechanism to keep you from just suddenly going from making the rock or the multi-tool to making the grenade launcher overnight. If it does work similar to some of the other games that are out there, like Starfield, where you have to go off and do a task, that's good because it provides a mechanism for syncing, controlling how quickly they can build something and making sure that we don't have this runaway thing where everybody kind of blows through all of the fun parts of the game overnight and then everybody's looking for something to do. So yeah, I'm down with it. I think that would be, if they've addressed it already, I think it would be a good way to gate all of the stuff that people would be making appropriate.
They need to have clear goals for that.
Yeah.
Like a clear research tree with potentially like fuzzy branches depending on what you want. But if you want to get to a specific end goal, there needs to be like a laid out plan. And what Paul face are you making right now?
I'm trying to wait. I'm waiting for you patiently to finish because my brain immediately flashed to the
There's one.
Path of Exile. I guess was that the latest one that came out? Path of Exile 2, or is that Pillars of Eternity? It's Path of Exile. The Path of Exile like skill tree. Have you seen that?
I'll Google it right now.
It is this big central thing, and then it's just like this entire page just goes on for like a 4K monitor length of just tiny little things that could be added. That's what I'm thinking. Right. It's a research tree.
there is something to be said for having that progress on your screen and being able to follow along.
That's true. Yeah.
How well you're getting there. That kind of feedback is part of that reward, that endorphin driven reward to know how far you're progressing. That's a research tree.
Yeah, if you look at it in the details,
1,385
that's a Mandelbrot diagram.
Yeah, those each point in that is a point you have to do at one point. So
yeah,
but it's all
everything in moderation.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about crafting and research is it's next to farming probably the only 3 professions that don't progress with a ship.
That's true.
Every other profession you do, you have a progress goal with a ship. But if you're crafting, aside from the capacity output, there's no reason to go for a bigger ship. Whereas mining, you want a bigger ship so you can mine the harder stuff, the more profitable,
or in quantity and in time.
Yeah, quantity as well.
I think it is a good idea that they have these things that don't require a ship, because Star Citizen is a much larger game than it was originally conceived. And if they want to offer gameplay to people who don't necessarily want to be in a ship, who like to be, be the ability to go fly around, but really kind of are more into the FPS based construction stuff, now they have an avenue to satisfy those people.
Yeah.
Darsh, your thoughts on I know this, but then we'll wrap it up. Anything else you want to add, I should say, because we've been kind of jumping in and out. So
Yeah, not really much to add at this point. Just like there, I hope they develop the idea pretty far along before they implement the first, like even the first vestige of it into the game. Just because we don't want more refactors as more tiers come online. But the way Richard Tyler was talking about it, I think they are pretty much of the same mentality that they need good design docs first for
I
everything.
think that's probably probably also one of the reasons why they shifted their focus to content instead of feature this year.
because they need more time to kind of focus on it.
Yeah, because they want to have a clean slate to build onto. Because right now, if we look at Star Citizen like a construction base, there's so much. We have a good fundament. We have solid walls, solid interior walls, but there's so much crap lying around. You can continue to build, but it gets harder and harder. At some point, you need to clean up all the mess.
Yeah, they just got to make it work.
All right, Darj, we'll start with this last one. This is the last final question. Keep it nice and brief with summary. Does Star Citizen need a crafting system?
Yes.
Why? Nice summary, just like a quick summary on it.
That was part of the question.
Concise, Paul.
I'll tell you.
You gave me a fucking yes or no question.
Okay.
I gave you an answer.
No.
I will do the teacher thing and say, please explain. Yes or no. And
Elaborate,
explain.
yeah.
Elaborate.
Or as one of my favorite lines from Star Wars recently is, thesis, please.
Yes.
Andor.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it has grown so much from the original pitch that it just wants to be the everything game, and then the everything game needs to have crafting. But as with hunger and thirst, and with mining and salvage, they've shown they at least know how not to fall into the the pitfalls of the really menial grindy games. So yeah, okay, Star Citizen may not need it, but the Star Citizens do.
Okay, that's a good way of putting
Does
it.
that make sense?
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Star Citizen as a game doesn't necessarily need crafting, but the players who are playing Star Citizen would improve their experience with crafting.
Just to keep them engaged and to keep agency in players' hands instead of just NPCs, or just having to always go onto the RSI website and buy the latest shiny. They can buy it from players in game.
Andy?
We need a purpose in the game, plain and simple. Rich Tyler is famous for saying this. We need to close the game loops. Mm-hmm. Why am I mining this ore? Am I just mining it to go sell it somewhere and make money? And then what am I going to do with the money? No. They have these various core foundational mechanics in the game: salvage, crafting, bounty hunting, ship fighting, that kind of thing. In order to keep people really engaged in the game and give the game a long-term future, and give people a reason to want to stay in there and build part of that universe, they need to be able to build part of that universe. And that means crafting. That means being able to construct new things that help them enjoy their gameplay with all those resources that they've gathered. Give me a reason to jump in a rock and drive around and look for a specific set of minerals on a faraway planet, because I'm looking for a very special ore so I can craft this cool weapon and sell it and make some money, or use it to kill people in PvP, just like in the real world. They've built such a large, elaborate universe that is, we all know this, it's beyond the scope of what they were originally looking for. You can't just build it. You got to give them something to do in it. And I think the crafting system is absolutely one of the biggest things that will help fill that need for people who want to have a good long-term purpose to live in this game.
Do you often go out killing people in the real world?
Yes, every day.
Depends on where you are.
My point, yeah, exactly. My point with people who
Florida.
Let me stop there. But the thing is, we all try to do things in real life to progress ourselves and make money, whether it's work as a teacher or build models or make computer software, that kind of thing. If you're going to have a large universe and you're going to simulate that universe in a game fashion, you have to make sure you have enough of the elements of a real universe to make you want to stay in it. And part of that is crafting and the rewards that come with it. Profiting.
There is some notion about number go up, make brain happy, but at some point you want to actually do something for that instead of just make the number go bigger.
Yeah. Every game's purpose is to trigger those baser instincts in us. Our the combat gets our rivalry, tribalism things going, and the adrenaline going. If we win, we feel victorious, and it satisfies some internal biological need. If we, sell the most items because we've made the best weapon, then my ego goes up. Those are all real things that we all deal with in real life. And if you want to make a successful game, you got to find a way to trigger those same, responses in a video game. That's essentially what games are all about. That's the only reason why we play them. Thank you for my TED Talk.
Yeah, as I say, Zark.
It's a third yes, though after social interaction and giving players a purpose, I add that the citizen has the necessity for crafting. Simply because spawning in Pyro, you have money, in my case roughly 50k, and nothing to spend it on. Now you could say, okay, let's start in Stanton, move to Pyro, buy stuff there, then move to Pyro. But every other system is just as barren, has as little infrastructure as Pyro, maybe even less. Supplies are also rare. You cannot get what you want. So simply to explore the verse, simply to have the ability to move from A to B to C, to stay in a system that's as undeveloped as Nyx or Pyro, you need some sort of self-sufficiency. And while you can say, okay, I'll just grab 200 SCU of supplies, having the ability to craft spare parts for your ship, a special environment hazard suit you didn't think of because you didn't know the planet was there, that's great. That's probably even necessary. And it might be a bit tinfoily, but I think most exploration vessels, most exploration ships will have one crafter on board. Mm-hmm. And I could see a crafting pod for the character you slot in.
It already has one.
You have a guy on board, and this person, and all this person has learned is all the different hazard suits you can possibly find. All of them. And you don't craft them because you can't store all of them, or you have to repair them because they get damaged, and so on and so forth. So crafting is simply necessary so you can move inside this enormous universe. I mean, the scale of this game will only grow. Even Stanton is a tiny system. Even Pyro is small.
Yeah,
we only get to the bigger systems, and I don't think we'll stay at 100 systems.
If this Yeah, if this game's going to survive longer than as long as it wants to, it can't stop at 100 systems. It's going to have to keep growing.
Yeah.
They need to start having systems that don't. They need auto-generated scripted systems that don't have any points of interest on them. Just basic systems that are undiscovered. That's an easy way for them to get new systems out there without having to go through all the design work of putting.
I mean,
but imagine that if it's like if they create like a system for players to find those undiscovered systems.
That was the whole
some sort of
Chris
creation system, some sort of Genesis system.
Yeah,
of course, I don't have that linked up. The thing is, he did specifically mention that. Chris talked about that. He said, didn't he even say, Zark, something like the first person to discover it would get to name it?
Yeah.
I
thought I heard that.
They on multiple occasions.
Sure. But is that
one goal for exploration? And if you discover an uncharted system and something you did not think of putting in your supplies hinders you on exploration or on exploring it, but you have a crafting station, you have a guy who knows the recipes, the blueprints, you have even some sort of mining laser on board, so you can, in the worst case, mine some basic materials to get this thing. This will be key.
The way to do that is the sensor system you need in your ship to discover that new system has to have some special stuff that you crafted or researched.
That too.
Right. And then when you get to a system where like a particularly weirdly volatile star, you need to craft new shield systems to be able to survive there. And maybe a slower, longer range quanta system because the system you discovered is particularly huge. Or
modifications to things that you need to do. The Star Trek mumbo jumbo. Like the stuff you see the Enterprise, the Voyager, or DS9 crew do, or any other. The original Enterprise or the NX-1 or the Discovery.
Enterprise was only about reversing the polarity, so that's pretty easy.
Or the simple fact your supplies run out, but you got a rock on board. You can mine some iron. You can build more ammunition so you can explore the next cave and don't get eaten by Copians.
Okay, so what you're saying is it allows for more. It allows for more interesting interactions in the game beyond just what we
it allows players to move further out from the infrastructure.
Okay. I will say, I don't think Star Citizen needs it, but I like how Darsh said it. It's Star Citizen doesn't need it, but Star Citizens do. And as Raider was talking about how like it gives you something to do, that is one of the things consistently throughout the years. I have been streaming Star Citizen and doing Star Citizen content for a very long time. One of the first things any new player who's interested in Star Citizen will ask is, what do you do? What is the point? What is the goal of Star Citizen? How do I win Star Citizen? And it's a sandbox.
Do not rage quit.
Yeah.
That's a fair response. It's a sandbox.
Yeah.
What you choose to do is up to you.
But as part of a sandbox is just a pit of sand. You need a bucket, a shovel, some plastic toys. You need that stuff, and that's what base building.
Great analogy.
To shape the sand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that gives us the tools to build in this sandbox to whatever goals we want to set for ourselves. But in order to even get those goals to set up, we need those tools, and that's what these tools are. That's what it is. It's a tool for the sandbox.
If we just think about what great things the community already has organized, I can see multiple cities getting built by the community across organizations that have special protection status and whatnot, and people just go, hey guys, how about we build a city there? That's the idea. And people just say, hey, I'm gonna help you. I built this city block, those streets.
I've talked about for a while that like how actual towns exist in reality. One of the theories of why they were founded was because people banded together for protection. It was just you could fight off more people if you were living together rather than in your small village. If you had multiple villages together, it would be easier. And so that eventually became because of protection. I think that's what we'll see in Star Citizen as well. Is like where groups will come together for protection. If there's a big group that has a city, people will set up a settlement. People will say, hey, can I set up next to you so we'll protect you? And it's like, yeah, sure, just pay us a little bit and we'll protect you. And that will grow out, especially if it's viable for whatever reason. That's just the sort of things that I could see with Star Citizen. And that was only possible with crafting. Go ahead, Darsh.
Zarg, I was just gonna say, like all of those towns that you mentioned, if you look at them from a certain point of view, shaped like dicks.
Oh, all of them will be.
Not all of them. Some will be boobs.
They'll
or vaginuses.
yes,
Yes,
they'll have critical. They'll fun names like Johnsonville.
There will all be, they will all be based on points of anatomy.
Yes. It'll be like Johnsonville.
Let's not limit our imagination to only one part of the anatomy.
Citizens are all people of
Heavenly
culture,
Hills.
so obviously, we use anatomy as to let us inspire. That's called bioengineering. We let nature inspire our designs.
And as Jin points out,
I don't think that's what bioengineering is.
We full circled back to pineapples. And with that, perfect ending. Thank you for watching us. Make sure you check out, you can come join in our Discord and hang out with the league and myself and Zark. Check out my radar and follow Andy on Blue Sky to figure out when his. I'm sure you'll post updates on your YouTube channel that you're doing for Star Citizen there. Check out jrdf.sc to see all the work that Darsh does. Make sure you pick up their models.
Darionator.com for my non-JRDF stuff.
And if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that follow button on Twitch. Subscribe to us on YouTube. But subscribe to the Captain's Table podcast YouTube. Find us up on Spotify. And you can join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and the Captain's Table podcast, or youtube.com /at the Captain's Table podcast at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you come join us because we're going to go into our After Dark, or since Darsh is here, After Darsh, where we take questions from the community. You're going to say something, Darsh?
I just realized I don't have pineapples on my link tree at darionator.com. I should fix that.
You should fix that. And with all that being said, thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. We're gonna take a few minutes. We're gonna take a few minutes break here, chat. So we'll be right back. Feel free to ask questions. The question bot is up. You just gotta put a question in front of it. So if you put the brackets question or just a question, or put question and then put your actual question in there, the bot will catch it. So you go ahead and do that. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And we're back with the After Dark, or as it says below me, After Dark section of
After Dark.
this is becoming actually one of the most popular segments for the Captain's Table, because when I've been posting on the new site, we're getting low numbers, but it's what happens. People don't always watch it after the fact, and a lot of people will insist on YouTube telling them when it's out, and so not everyone necessarily knows that it's out, and YouTube won't promote it until they can monetize it, and they can't monetize it until a certain point. It's complicated, but the last two of these have been super popular, like 1,000+ views on them, which is unusual for the thing that's been happening for a brand new channel, basically. So hopefully you enjoy it, and hopefully you all are enjoying this. We're probably going to be spicy as usual with this one, because I've already seen a couple of questions, and we actually had a conversation before the actual main show started. Where
About pineapples.
Well, about pineapples, but about this, about a bunch of things that have been asked. So if you missed the main show, there'll be a link above Zark's head. Click that link, go there, and check it out. We had a discussion about crafting in Star Citizen. What does it mean? Is it good? All that sort of thing. So with that being said, let's take the first question, because these are all questions from the chat, for both YouTube and Twitch. So the first question is from Ryoshima, who asks, since CIG is going to be focusing on bug fixes this year, if you could have only 3 new features that they showed at CitizenCon last year, besides engineering, what would they be?
We predicted it.
Yes. Oh, well, I'll add that on top of this, because there's another one from Walter Hawk, who says, with the delay of the content only working on content, or with delay on content only working on content, they are sure they can get into the game. Do you feel? Oh, okay. With the delay on content only working on content, they are sure they can get into the game. Do you feel we will have the Pioneer with crafting by the end of this game this year? And there's another question on here as well that was about the same thing, because this is kind of coming up a little bit.
People need to stop doing run-on sentence questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
What cadence
maybe,
do you think is best for the new game when it comes to adding new features and new content? There's a couple of these questions that are about this. They're all asking effectively the same thing, which is our opinion on CIG's focusing on bug fixes and content rather than features. So I'll answer the first question, but while we're answering that first question, feel free to add on to it. The first question is, what are the 3 features you would like to see that were that are not engineering? And I'll start with you, Zark.
So first feature would be fire.
Okay.
FPS radar, simply because it gets really tedious with the open spaces and trying to kill all the NPCs, and then they are hiding somewhere. So FPS radar, simply from a quality of life standpoint, and the new quantum system, quantum drive. Those are the 3 I'd like.
And what are your thoughts on the current system? Like this
on the current system. So first, I would like to answer Walter's question, because the Pioneer was never coming out this year. They are working on this year, but they need more than 12 months for a capital ship like the Pioneer. It's just too huge to bring it out within 12 months.
Okay.
In the state they showed it as, yes, it was white box only. Yeah.
Yeah. So now for the whole system,
the whole plan, like
the whole,
what is this plan? Your thoughts on this
change? The thing is, yes, we have always had those big feature-driven patches, and for old school citizens like myself, Paul, Dash, Andy, we don't bother with bugs. Yes, we get frustrated when our Ursa just explodes by randomly driving through the hangar. But I think I can say we are all kind of immune to this. We've experienced worse.
We're jaded, is what you mean, yeah.
On the other side, we would love to have a game where when I press the button for the elevator just appears. There's no second guessing, is the elevator there? There's no leap of faith needed through a black door.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all those little things. So while we will probably still get 1 or 2 cool features this year, the cadence of trying one big bug fix patch every month is great, and I hope they can manage this, because if we had working ASOP, working ASOC, working elevators, working transit, no random inventory bugs that leave your items dropped on the floor and you cannot interact with them anymore. If those things disappear, the game will be much, much better to play. And I think people will play it a lot more, because the biggest issue right now is no longer server performance. Server performance is great. AI performance is great. Now we have issues like 20, you just wipe the outpost, 20 AIs are respawning at once and just murdering you because they came from all sides and you didn't notice. The issues are, you want to load in your Ursa rover into your Carrack and it just explodes. And you forgot to set your spawn point on the new space station because you just wanted to pick up your Carrack from the other space station where you parked it because you didn't want to claim it for an hour. Yeah. All those little things.
I'm looking at the comments about Flaro, by the way, one of the members of what is it? Flaro, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the Jump Point Collective? Yeah, the Jump Point Collective.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is an organization of fan music creators. Flaro.
That dude has made me cry in Gun Rush.
He's apparently really good at Gun Rush.
Yes.
So, he's also really good at dropping the sick beats. So check out Jump Point Collective. Let's move to you.
Especially check out the Pyro album that he and Wikipedia released.
We had
not very recently, but quite recently.
We talked about this last week with the New Soul, with Fist, who's part of New Soul. So it was good. He's the one who told us, "Oh yeah, Jump Point Collective." I was like, "What?" There's a collective of Star Citizen fan artists, music artists. That's amazing. Radar Rangers. So the basic question, the first question is what are the 3 features you'd like to see that are not engineering this year? The second question was, do you think we're going to see the Pioneer this year? And lastly, just more over what do you think this system, does this new system of focusing on bugs versus features, is this sustainable? Is this a good idea?
So I could go with the easy ones, like I want crafting and base building in there, but I'm gonna well, what I really want, aside from engineering, is the social tools and the player org tools that they showed off during CitizenCon. The revamp of chat, the ability to see org names in the game, and the party looking for group type stuff, party management tools that they showed off. I'm counting those as all one feature, and I would love to see that come in. I'm skeptical because it's a lot of UI work, and there's probably a lot of back-end work that they need to have in place to support it. So I don't know if this year is realistic for that, but I would love to see it, because I think that would be such a huge. The game really needs something to help that coalesce group play.
That would be a feature that would highlight the current move that CIG is going with, trying to more playability. Yeah. That would be key to playability. Yeah. I agree. So
yeah. Then I guess I would stick with the standard ones like base building and crafting for the 3. I was really jazzed when I saw them highlight that player org stuff, because that's what most MMOs have, and what CIG is Star Citizen is lacking. As far as the Pioneer, I would echo Zark's comments. I wouldn't bet on it this year. I mean, it's a separate ship. My presumption, I think all of us are still presuming that the ship team is still separate from software engineering and game dev. So if they're still working on it, great. I wouldn't expect it to come out and be functional. but they will probably have lots of pretty pictures to show us this year, and maybe a walkthrough or something like that.
I also think this ship team will have to revisit a couple of ships in bug fixing them and so on.
Yeah,
that's possible.
There could
gold
be some
passes. There's
Yeah.
so many ships that need gold standard pass.
like
What was the last part that I missed though on your question?
just in general, this focus on
So
bug fixing older features.
I'm torn on it. We need to fix the bugs for sure because it's obviously like paramount at this stage because people aren't playing the game because of it. I'm one of them. But the content and the new features are kind of the pretty eye candy that get us really jazzed because it makes us feel like there's more progress there. I think it's going to be a tough year in the sense that we may not feel as though that we're getting as much tangible progress on a playable game. And I'm sure there are people who would challenge my statement there because you'll be able to play it without bugs, hopefully. If they really do need to tackle the bugs. Yeah, and if they can weed through the majority of them so we're not falling through planets, and again, to echo everything Zark said there, yeah, that'll make this a very different experience for everybody, and I think it's a direction they need to go in.
Okay. Darsh, same question to you. The 3 features, is the Pioneer coming out this year, and what is your overall think about this stuff?
Right. The first one that I'm hoping for is the transit refactor, just because so much of like the first 15 minutes of or half an hour or however long it takes, because it keeps bugging out of every citizen's place session, is reliant on the transit system to work in the elevators, the trams, everything you wanted to take you to from your hab to your your hangar or to the spaceport, and then from the spaceport to the hangar. I hope that is then in a good spot where we're no longer in fear of, like Zark said, leap of faith for the elevators, or I'm going to bundle the instance hangars into this, just because it kind of feels like it's part of the same game flow, like getting from your spawn location into the air with your ship. So yeah, hopefully we get that sorted out. Second one, the mission system. Has anybody mentioned that yet?
No, I don't think so.
The refactor of the mission system. Hopefully Elliot will finally start being bullied by Jared, and when the new mission system is in place and working properly, so we can get more varied missions, branching missions, multi-step missions. That's the one thing that I've always wanted. Is like when you're doing something, when you're fulfilling your objective and you find a clue that can lead you on a path to another mission, or when you're done with, but not just like here's a stage of a mission and you complete it, and then you are gated to be able to accept another mission that is part of the chain. But I mean, like you create in the UI as well, they create a chain. It's like okay, you finish this, now come back to me and we'll talk more about what you need to do, and stuff like that. So more like diegetic chained progressive progression through an objective. Third one, RT. I'm a sucker for eye candy. I really loved Ben Perry's this year's and last year's and the year before that presentation about global illumination and ray tracing. I like that. So yeah, those are going to be my three features.
Let's skip ray tracing and go straight to VR.
You can have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
You're muted, Paul.
The system we're moving forward with the whole fixes and
over
features.
Okay, so first off, the Pioneer, big ship, just like the what's the Dorito. the Polaris that just came out. Yeah, that's
Even larger.
Yeah, 18 months at least it's going to take from the stage that they showed it off at CitizenCon. But they also, I want them to stick to their guns when they say they're not going to release a ship that just exists to be a ship and doesn't have any gameplay features connected to it, because the Pioneer is going to have crafting and resource extraction and ship crafting. So a lot of things need to fall into place before the ship can be put into the game, not just the ship team modeling it and animating it and then lighting it and everything. The third one, is the system sustainable? I feel like at the end of the year, they're gonna pivot back into a feature. It will be ping-ponging.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping they actually come out with at least some like 1 or 2 features while they're doing this. They seem to allude to that during that long 2-hour, 3-hour podcast.
They said that they didn't say that they're not doing features. They just said features aren't the priority.
Heavily
So,
moving
for now,
towards content. And
so in essence, for now, bug fixing has always been the second priority. Now it's features being the second priority.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they're good at their assigned task, we'll see a much more stable game, and then they'll be ping ponging back to more features only and less bug fixing, and then we'll end up in the same situation that we're now. Hopefully, maybe not, but I feel like that's what's going to happen. But I'm fine with that. I feel like Star Citizen is in dire need of a lot of polish, even though there's the whole caveat of, yes, it's an alpha, you have to expect the bugs, but there's some bugs that are just years and years and years old, and it's getting tired.
It may be called an alpha, but it's grown into a game that they're trying to actively solicit players for. Mm-hmm. And the bugs are unquestionably scaring new players away, and that's lethal.
Yep. Especially when you have people like Lyric say, I put up a video, I tried Star Citizen and it's still disappointing.
Yes.
I mean,
they get
millions
of views.
Yeah. One of the best moves I've seen from CIG was canceling the free flight.
I think that surprised a lot of people.
I was not expecting that. I feel like that is a clear indication of where their priorities are right now.
It shows that they know what the stakes are.
They're finally understanding PR is what it showed me, which is like they're finally understanding that you can do something like that, which goes a long way for your backers and for the people who are paying attention to you. And relatively speaking, it's cheap. Like it's a symbolic measure, So
it's actually cheaper than running a free fly, because they wouldn't need to spool up so many servers and pay for them.
To be honest, I'm sure it wasn't hard to do the math. They knew that if they introduced a lot of free people into that game in its current state, it would be suicide.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what you were trying to do with it. If you're trying to attract new people to get them involved in the game, all you're going to do is show all the new people how terrible it is and why they want to stay away from it.
It may also be that they've been seeing the numbers of free flights going down because people have been less and less inclined to play, and with Star Citizen getting more attention from less Kotakus and more content creators who have larger audiences and more mainstream media or mainstream media, like in terms of like not the I need a ramen this month, I need to pump something out, but people who have reputations for doing investigative journalism a little bit more in the gaming sphere, they probably wanted to those sorts of things. They probably factored into it, but did you have anything else to say, Darj, or were you kind of wrapped it up?
No, I'm good.
I am. My answers to the 3 are pretty simple. Scanning, all the scanning, FPS scanning, and other kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that's the one I was thinking of. But then people kept talking and I forgot.
Well,
Zark, I blame you.
Zark did say he's FPS scanning, but FPS scanning and ship scanning are all part of the same system. So like the new scanning system. And I saw some people saying that like this FPS scanning is gonna be broken in Star Citizen. And the one thing that I will say to that is you got to remember that FPS scanning works the same way as regular ship scanning. But if you ping, you're going to also light yourself up. It's submarine warfare. So yeah, you can get wall hacks, but the second you hit that ping, they can also see you through the walls. So it's not a wall hack as much as it is a wall sonar, I guess. It's gonna definitely change how Star Citizen plays. Active sensors versus passive sensors.
Damn it, Jen. Tonic, I was being patient and waiting for Paul to finish, and you beat me to the joke.
Go for it.
Yet again.
The audio people haven't seen it. Go for it.
Yes. Vasily, one ping only, please.
The other thing would be, other than engineering, would be, because they're the other ones I was thinking about. I don't know if monster hunting counts as a feature, but that's something they've mentioned. What I really like is the stuff that, the org features. The org stuff needs to come in with like a new chat, new integration for organization stuff. Hopefully like new permissions for org. And I will say, feature. Refining. I think player refining needs to be put in, because it's like, it's going to be needed for building anyways. It's one of the steps of player crafting and base building. So, and that's one we already have in game. So just tackle it,
Funnily
do a
enough,
ship for it,
The Expanse is also the only starting ship from missing. I mean, they have the salvage starter, the mining starter now, and the refining starter is the one missing currently.
Yeah. In terms of the Pioneer, I also saw somebody in chat saying that, well, in the monthly report, they said, what we're saying is, even if they're talking about it releasing later this year, CIG has a lot of ideas that we're releasing, but they've also said specifically that the Pioneer was not going to release when base building was released. It was going to be released after base building was out. And this was before they started doing the big shuffle over. I'm sure CIG is still planning on getting base building out this year, but based off of what they've been saying, I doubt we will see base building get out this year. And if base
the Pioneer is also primary ingredient for a station build.
Yes. So
And the question with base building is also about persistence. Yeah. So before we can have base building, we need to have some sort of persistence across all the shards.
And the planetary shields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need the planetary shields.
So much everything connected.
You don't need the shields. You can just give these structures invulnerability. So that's
sure, but that's all only in Stanton, but like in Pyro and contestant
for
systems.
Tier 0 base building. For Tier 0 base building, just make all the structures indestructible.
Yeah.
End of story. But the big issue is persistence. You join a shard, so where's your base? Can your base be there? What if two people on different shards build the base in the same place? Now they switch shard. How is this gonna work? So we need some more headway on persistence before we can actually work on.
Yeah, the point being, I think for all of us, is that CIG said it wasn't going to be it wasn't going to be there for base building. There's already questions about if base building is going to be out this year, and crafting and such. So the idea that the Pioneer is going to come out this year, I wouldn't bet money on it based off of all of those factors. It could be done, but being done and released are two different things. The whole C was done like 2 times before it was released. It was done.
I'm another year closer to death here.
Yeah. So with then the last question, which is about the whole thing. I've always said that I prefer break fast or move fast and break things as approach, because we're not done out of alpha. However, other people who have more experience than I in these sorts of systems have also said that they believe that this is the perfect time to harden the systems that exist, go back, deal with the tech debt they already have, and establish a good foundation moving forward, so they don't build continually on shaky foundations. And the thing about those foundation about this currently is that CIG has finally released the last major part of the game. Like server meshing is the last technical hurdle that they needed to cross to build the game that Chris Roberts outlined in 2012. And that is the key point. Now, is that a good thing or not? I don't know. And I know it's scary, but I also think that CIG's pivot towards narrative is going to do them a lot of get them a lot of attention, because CIG has had 4 writers trapped in a basement writing pretty much daily for 13 years. They have a very complicated, very interesting universe that they've crafted and honed and improved upon. They just haven't had it in the game. It's all been on websites and other kind of stuff. So if this is the year they take that and put it into the game, we can actually start to see the writing chops. And I also think that has a benefit to Squadron 42, because if players go, I am now invested in the story of Star Citizen, the story is being told in Star Citizen, and you go, oh, there's an entire single player game that you can play with full cinematic cutscenes and everything else like that with the same by the same team, people might be a lot more interested in going, let's go. So I think this is a good pivot, especially with the mission refactor stuff that they want to do, to kind of add missions and story, because it'll also improve the chances of Squad 42, and people will still be engaged. People always come back for new patches, not just for the features. The features aren't really, they're the eye-catching, but I think most people come back just to see if the game functions. So,
And I mean, if we talk about features, I did not really interact a lot with the cargo feature. I have to, in terms of if I want to be a loot goblin, I need to do it, but I didn't come back for the cargo feature.
Mhm.
On the other hand, now with Attack Pyro or Defend Pyro, or however you want to put it, Phase 1, I was invested. Phase 2, I'm also there. I've finally finished Phase 2, 1 and 2. If Phase 3 comes around, there's a reason for me to go in, play again. And those missions aren't something you just do on one evening or something. It's usually, it takes a while.
Mhm.
And then you have the issue like, my brother is doing Phase 1 now, so I can help him. He's doing Phase 2 next, so then I come in, help him again. With lore, we've done Phase 1 last weekend. This weekend we're going for Phase 1 and 2 for people who still need help. These missions are what actually drives player engagement. So I would bet that over the year, even though there's no eye-catchy feature, if they keep those narrative missions alive, each month a new stage, if they manage that, and those missions work, and we will see some more group play, and you won't be able to just game it like some of the earlier missions. I can see the player engagement, player concurrency be higher than last year, a lot higher than last year.
I agree, and I think that's the key, is that, and it's obviously calculated risk. Like that's the reason why they chose Chris moved it this way. There's obviously discussions inside, because this wasn't something they just came up with overnight. They're moving in this direction. I think I'm biased as hell with this, because I'm a guy who runs an entire lore YouTube channel that is mostly dedicated to Star Citizen. So CIG putting the lore in the game and actually getting people invested. I was before this, I was just looking at like the different mission descriptions, and in the mission descriptions specifically, they were talking about the various. I was looking at all the different, like the way that they were talking, the way that the language they used, and I came to the realization that there is a far bigger web that's likely being spun in this whole thing, based off of my knowledge of the expanded lore of Star Citizen, than people realize. And I was like, man, my video on this whole thing that I've been writing for a couple weeks now just got a lot longer, but a lot more interesting, about like, who are really behind the frontier fighters? Who's funding the Citizens for Prosperity? What are the headhunters, thing in all of this? And
it's very convenient how they got singled out as being the enemy.
Yeah.
The frontier fighters, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think from a practical standpoint, you're right, because having this long-term investment in the storyline in the game is what's going to help people get introduced to the Star Citizen universe.
Yeah.
And it's a kind, I don't want to say the low-hanging fruit, but it's kind of the lore team, like you said, has been locked in the basement. They've been writing this stuff. They might as well start implementing it in the game, because that's what's gonna. Those people who want to test the waters and be the solo player at first when they join Star Citizen, they're gonna want to know what the universe is all about, and that's how they do it.
And then we have the whole topic about emotional investment. Like, they talked about it that at the end of the year, something will change depending on how we play the narrative. So I assume how many people do favor each faction, how well we do each missions, and so on and so forth. If at the end of the year something changes and we played a part in it, our actions had consequences.
Mhm.
It's a whole different level of engagement. And that's something I would say, my faction won. Or my faction lost, but now we have this part or something.
Yeah. I was there. I fought in this conflict, and I had the impact or whatever. And I think,
And then we'll be the people that go, "You weren't there, man."
yeah, you weren't even there. Well, like I'll give you another example, which is, do people hop into Destiny every time there's a major update from Destiny just so they can get like new shiny, or do they hop into Destiny to play the new story campaigns and to do the new missions and the new raids? Most MMOs don't introduce new mechanics every update. They usually introduce new feature, new content, and that content is what drives the engagement. If CIG is moving towards this sort of MMO model, that MMO model in terms of like finalizing that sort of direction, content is what they're going to have to give. And so this is already
And I think,
like a big practice for that,
And I think we also have to remember that feature-wise, there's not a lot left for 1.0. Because salvage and mining, they need rework, they need bug fixing, they need next year, they need updates, so they fall in this content side of things. Crafting base building sure is a feature that's missing, which will come. Research and farming, the other two. And then full persistence. So we have 4 features left, pretty much.
but yeah.
There's one most important feature we forgot about.
What?
Which one?
Oh, do it.
Oh, it's not working.
Genesis.
Yeah.
I totally spoiled it. Sorry.
All
right.
Right, Genesis.
Anyway.
Yeah, okay. So, but I say from Genesis is not necessarily something we see as a feature
players.
for us.
Yeah.
So
Planet Tech V5 would be, that stuff looked beautiful.
yeah, but I'll be honest. If the difference between getting Planet Tech V5 and working elevators, on the player side, it's not that much of a difference.
Well, remember the elevators are going to be priority now, so
yeah, that's what he's trying to say though. Is that the elevators are more important than the Planet Tech V5? So.
Yes, absolutely.
So, just speaking player-facing features, it's pretty much only 4 or 5 things left. Now we have obviously Genesis, Starware, all the things that will make life better. But there's not a lot of features left to do. It's mostly content that they need to put in. All the star systems, all the new all the missions that need to be brought in. For this, we need the refactor of the mission system, which is on the content side, main campaign, and so on. So it's mostly content now that's left. Features are not all that many left to do.
Let's move on to the next questions, because that was a good one I wanted to tackle, because there's like 4
That was a long one.
Well, there are 4 different questions that were all tackled.
True,
so
yeah,
I wanted to try to get through all of that. Some short ones real quick. Jen and Atomic asks, Radar Ranger, what's your citizen number?
Ooh, hold on, look.
For those of you who don't know, if you go to your profile, it'll say.
Where do I find it? Oh,
so, it's at the very
80995. Citizen record number 80995. It's not very low, apparently.
No, that's pretty low. Let me see mine. Mine is 242500.
Oh, geez. I guess I'm low.
Yeah,
That's really low.
When did you back?
2013.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're all going through them. Hold on. I need to sign in, and then it's
Oh,
gonna.
it's September
384946.
September 3rd, 2013 is when I signed in.
Yeah, I'm February 8, 2014, and 384946.
I like my
November
numbers.
23rd, 2012.
Because I've got my record is 242,500. It's nice. It's got 42 in it.
Oh, you bastard!
Yeah.
Right, hold on. I need to log in and then 2FA because I don't really log into my account from this computer.
Okay, you're taking too long.
I can look it up real
Yeah,
quick.
sure.
Is it Darionator?
It is Darionator. Yeah.
Yours is
238505.
Yeah. You're just below me.
September 1st, 2013.
Yeah, you enlisted 2 days before I did.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Jaded Cynics got 41,230.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. That was a quick one. That was a fun one. Next question comes from Escape, who asks, "What ships do you believe need a gold pass most?" I'll start really quickly.
Constellation.
Yeah, I was gonna say two.
Sorry, I stole that from you.
There's two. There's Constellation and the Freelancer. Those are the two that need the biggest ones. The third one is the Aurora, but I've said for a while.
That's a bit like mid, like it's like in the middle of the gold pass right now.
I feel like the Aurora. You shouldn't do the Aurora until you want new players in, but clearly CIG is doing the hardening right now to get new players in. So this is the year the Aurora should get a gold pass. We should see the Aurora.
One thing I want to tack onto that is they need to expand the choices of your starter package from just Aurora and Mustang. They need to include the 100i and the cutter and maybe was the
Intrepid.
the new the Intrepid, the fucking ugly one. Yeah, they need to include those in the main page where you pick in your starter, and they need to be the same price.
All right.
I say for gold standard, we probably the two ships that need it most are probably Connie and the Starfarer.
Okay, Starfarer. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. The Reclaimer only after they've reworked salvage. That's something they talked about that they want to tackle this year, and only
you,
after
you,
they've
you want
done
you want the hand back or the
personally.
So
just from a coolness factor, yes. Personally, I don't have any money in this game. It's just that I don't think the Reclaimer needs a rework until they've finalized what salvage should be like, and that's something they want to do this year. So it surely needs one, but it would be the third ship, not the first two.
It's functional, and it's not as bad as the Starfarer. But I'm of the camp. I'm sure that a lot of that I at least know it a couple of bloggers have been mentioning a lot is that you need to take the Reclaimer and you need to throw it out, and you need to start from scratch, because I think the claw is dead. Physical interaction is not going to happen because that's just way too much work for it to matter.
But Maelstrom has been shown to work.
But it's not Maelstrom is what I'm worried about. It's about the whole process of having two objects connect to each other and pick up a random object and then suck it into the. I think that whole process is a lot of labor, bespoke labor for very little outcome.
I have an idea how the claw can work. So we're still beam citizens. So you open the claw, a tractor beam pulls the ship in, attaches it to the claw. So the claw would function as a cargo grid of some sort where the ship attaches to, and then you can munch it down with the salvage beams. That would work.
I'm just thinking there's just too much bespoke work for it. That's the reason why I think they need to. They can still keep the Nostromo vibes, because I think that's While a lot of people did buy it for the claw, I think a lot of people also got it because it's the Nostromo, you know. So, but it's not built for the current salvage. It was built for an idea of what salvage might be, and when salvage becomes a thing that's finalized and you have the full loop, it'll become a lot better. It'd be a lot better to go back and recreate it. It wasn't like the second biggest ship we had in the game. It was built like after the Starfarer. So,
It was the biggest.
Yeah.
I mean,
until the 890.
depending on how you view it, I mean, until the 890, it was definitely the biggest.
I think by volume, it's still the biggest. It's still bigger than the
bulk.
890.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Polaris is bigger than the 890.
No, so I didn't say I did correct myself when I said the biggest. I said I meant bigger than the 890. But yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
One of the things I wanna just say is hold back on the gold standard passes because that means I need to redo the kits.
I think most of them just
if there's too many changes. So one of the things I'll say, we in May of 2024, we had a booth at Beacon, which is the Belgian largest European Star Citizen convention, and we showed off several the Saber Raven kit in several stages. One was fully assembled and lit by our friend Steele. Then there was one just assembled, and then there was one in pieces. And it was during Beacon that CIG released the gold standard pass of the Saber Raven without telling us. So it was during that that event that I actually got to look at new screenshots and videos of all the changes that I'm gonna have to make to the kit, and well, it only took a couple of weeks. But yes, even just even if the changes are superficial, they will be changing a lot about the ships that you know and love. So I just want to put that out there.
Let's move on. All right, Stikru asks, my question is as well, how will they quantify resources? Like, I don't think you'll need one big SU box of iron just to craft a weapon scope.
Probably micro SEU or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we already have micro SU.
Yeah, we already have it.
Yeah.
I think that there will be different versions of crafting machines. So some that just have an internal storage, so you can put some SU boxes in, some 0.01 0.1 boxes, I think, are the normal ones we carry. Put them in. On ships or on larger bases, you just put them in the cargo grid like the Pioneer. You have your cargo tray, you put those things on, and the resources get transferred. And then for a pistol, maybe it's 0.001 SCU of something.
All right.
And the bigger ones will require an established inventory network with cargo elevators, so they can just pipe into that. Yeah.
Northern Trooper asks, to Andy, always wanted to ask this. Is the My Radar app in CarPlay supposed to be a GIF or just a picture? Is there a plan to make it a looping gift?
All right, so this isn't Star Citizen related, so I'll make it quick. It's actually a good story. Apple has restrictions on CarPlay about having distracting animations, so that you're not really allowed to animate the radar. And for anybody who doesn't know, our app shows the weather radar, and then it animates the radar on this map.
Right.
The thing is, I really wanted that animated radar. I wanted it. And so when we were testing it, I had it enabled in the car, and I was driving back in Florida here during a really nasty rainstorm one day, and the radar was set up to animate while we were in the test mode. And I found myself in this heavy downpour. I was watching the radar to see when I was going to be out of the rain, and I found myself staring at it to get to the last frame of the radar animation so I could see when I was going to get out of it, and I damn near rear-ended this guy in front of me. So it really could have been bad. So long story short, I totally see why they don't want distracting animations, and trust me, from hands-on experience, you probably don't want it either. Unless maybe you're stopped or something. Like I think we might be able to do it if we're in park mode, but I don't know. A lot of cars don't actually tell us whether or not they are. We get that on Android Auto, but then information on Android Auto, but not on CarPlay. So.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Northern,
I need a change of underwear after that.
Northern Trooper asks, the Fortune does not have a suit locker, and I believe the Vulture as well, not having one. My question is CIG pivoting away from suit lockers for non-combat ships? Are they not bringing in heavy tier industrial suits? They are. It's in the... they did put a suit locker in the Intrepid. But they're intentionally not putting them in certain ships because they want the ships that have them to have that feature. So like there are,
and I think if we take a look at the seat in the Ultra or the Fortune or the Prospector for that part, those are not fighter seats, so they are rather spacious. So I can see that we will have different seats, and those seats will allow for different suits to wear. So I mean, they also
shouldn't be allowed on any seat just because they're so bulky and just clip in everything.
They aren't really clear cut on what armor types can sit in what seats. For now, they only talked about that wearing something that's heavier than a flight suit gives penalties. I can see certain seats giving less penalties even if you wear heavier armor. The thing is, it's always kind of your choice. If you're using the Vulture, you aren't really supposed to leave the ship for that part, so you might only wear a light salvage armor. Same with the Fortune. It's not really your job to leave the ship, so why would you need a suit locker?
Also, what we need as an option is stools, no back support, and then you can wear anything you want.
There we go. Yeah. Well, you can also, there's the other option, which is you might be able to craft an armor stand and put it in your cargo bay and use it as use it that. That'll take up space. So like, you know, that gives it meaningful gameplay. Those are some things that I can see.
Or just hang it on the outside.
Yeah, stick it.
Yeah, but then you can get then you can get outside to change into it. Yeah. I mean, understood and helmet, sure.
So Northern Trooper then asks, is there anything within the lore where certain regions, i.e. Hurston, that would not allow a player to build a base there? Should a company-owned sites allow for players to set up their manufacturing site in their system? Yes. So each planet is its own jurisdiction. So you can think of Hurston as its own country. So each planet will have limitations. Like you can think of it, they've even mentioned this as sort of like national parks or forest reserves or something like that, where some areas will be controlled by the governing body and will restrict anyone from going there because they either...
I love the idea of a Hurston-controlled national park. It's just when you have only about 25% is garbage instead of, you know...
Well, it's Hurston controlled. It's
or
less
the mutated animals.
It's less about being a national park and more about it's our shit. Don't touch it. So sort of perspective. And you still have to pay taxes to those places when you do. So there's definitely it's important to know that CIG is leaning towards each planet, I should say, planetary system is its own governing body, and they're going to have completely different rules depending on where you go. So what's allowed in some systems won't be allowed in others, even if their two UEE systems may have completely different rules on building, usage of materials, or, you know, like Castra, you might not be able to walk into the Castra's gates wearing armor and guns, but in a place like Area 18,
Levski,
they may not care, you know, or Levski, they definitely won't care. I
can also see certain systems. I'm like, what's the one that's so protective because there's developing species on there?
Hades. No, Hades was the other one.
Oso, yeah.
Oso, you know. So I can see systems like that where you aren't allowed to build a base, but if you're sneaky enough, you might be able to pull it off, because CIG is all about this. Try if you can.
Yeah, less forced features and more
Yes.
enforced rules.
So you could, not sure how it would work on a well developed system like Hurston because of all the surveillance. But in theory, I can see CIG giving us options. For example, with a hacked construction probe to build on Hurston without any permits, without paying taxes. But then Hurston Security shows up and crashes your stuff.
There's definitely more things they could do.
Break some
in there.
kneecaps, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some like ways they could go with it, but there's nothing in the
I just
Voices
realized.
can't.
Do you think like if the mob breaks your kneecaps, that's gonna be an echo for your next regeneration?
It will be.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Stickaroo asks, question: will we be able to craft fuel? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have specifically said
You'll
that.
You'll need to harvest the base
refine it.
materials. Yeah, refine it. Yes, but you'll need to. One of the jobs of the Starfarer is to go into gas clouds and gather all the raw materials it needs for refining into fuel.
Yeah, and it'll be different quality. So that's going to definitely be used in the new crafting system. Like I expect the refining system just to be the crafting system. In a trench coat. It's going to end up being the same thing. But Northern Trooper asks, question: the Fortune does not have a suit lock. Okay, you already asked that question. I don't know when it goes through it again. Citizen Ninja asks, how small do you think or do you expect will be the smallest shelter we can craft? Maybe like the size of a tiny ground vehicle ASOP room at the Moon mining outpost, or smaller?
I want a tent.
I think initially
that's not a bad idea.
I think initially
Sleeping
we'll have
bags.
like a one-room building,
something like
that survival shelter.
What they showed off in the probe, in the construction probe clip, is the smallest thing we can build. But I guess we might see some sort of survival tent we can pitch up. That's just a small tent.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a handful of questions left. Like I said, the first question took us a long time, so I wanted to make sure we could answer it because I knew it was going to come up because it's a big discussion factor. Steve the Dancer asks, do you think CIG will have 1, 2, 4, and 8 SU containers of quantum fuel that is in storage but add to your ship's range?
So
I could see them making a device to let you take it out of the container, but just magically having it in your ship and having it be an extra gas tank, I think is probably pushing it.
Yeah. The star siphon, as they're going to call it.
Yeah.
So there is a nice lore post about a guy shipping a Starfarer from point A to point B, and the pilot has to manually refuel the ship at some point.
That's different because it's already a ship that has fuel tanks in it, but we're talking about actual cargo containers full of.
He is transporting the Starfarer from A to B, and because it has to be in pristine condition, he cannot use your normal fuel dock system, so he has to manually refuel it.
He's complaining about doing it. Yeah,
what'd be interesting is if it was volatile and if you got attacked, it blew up, so you ran a risk there.
Yeah.
The question is, will CIG add some sort of fuel cap on the inside of large ships where you can go and bring your 10 liter canister
jerry can and throw it in there.
I have no idea.
Carrack has 2 of those basically rooms where you can go. There's some components in there, and there's like a huge wall that says fuel tank.
The question is, even if you can do it manually, does it make sense? I mean, I have no idea how far the Carrack will jump with 10 liters of quantum fuel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 2 gallons or something for the Americans.
Yeah, I get it. It depends on a lot of different factors, and people point out there are fuel points, but most of those are exterior. What Zark is talking about is like being able to do the old what was the Amelia Earhart trick where you have like an access to the gas can from inside the fuselage of the ship that you could then pour into.
Yeah, I think it would be fair if you had to drag that big old 32 SCU thing outside with the siphon and do it while you're stopped floating around, because then you add risk, so it makes it so it's not that super convenient. And again, the volatility, so if somebody shoots you and you run the risk of blowing up. That keeps everybody by just installing an extra billion gallon tank in their ships.
Yeah, but if you drop out of quantum in the middle of nowhere, nobody's gonna be able to find you anyway. So you're safe in the middle of space.
That's what you think.
and I mean, using 8 SCU to refuel your ship, to refuel your Carrack, is a much more feasible than using a jerry can.
That's true. Good question, because we don't know how big it is. So,
well, the 8 SCU of quantum fuel is just a big jerry can.
Yeah. Like, I'm assuming you would have some kind of tool that would connect or beam the fuel from your storage crate into the gas tank. But you still have to go through the process.
Where Jerry is in bold.
Yeah.
Bold 32-point font.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next question comes from Steve the Dancer, who asks, "How's everyone today/night?" I'm doing okay.
Well, thank you, Steve. Thanks for the question. I'm doing quite all right. Yeah. It's been a tough week, but I came out of it invigorated.
Yes. Radar?
I wanted to try to come up with a funny line from Monty Python, but things are great.
Always look on the bright side of life.
Always look on the
bright side. Life is full of shit when you think of it.
Never harmonize over Discord.
No, it doesn't work. Zark, how you doing?
Yeah, so far so good. I'm currently working on finishing the most of my destroyer army, so bit of painting going on.
Nice. Yeah, I'm down to the last 9 models of my Black Orc Blood Bowl team. So, because I've been getting back into Blood Bowl, so I've been putting off doing it because it's like, there's just a lot left. All right. Next question comes from Steve the Dancer, who asks, what do you think will be the next game loop?
I saw this question come up, and I was wondering if he meant, like, what's the next one they're going to invent, or the next one that's going to be in the PTU?
Completed, I think, is the next one they're going to be completed.
Engineering.
I hope sandwiches.
Sandwiches. Yeah, I think engineering. Engineering is the closest one. Zark?
Yeah, I'd say also engineering. In theory, we could see crafting. Depending on how you see it, the revamped or refurbished mining/salvage. Repair is also more or less on the horizon. So there are a couple of candidates. Engineering surely the most pressing one. The question with engineering is always, how does it work with all the refractors going on and with all the things that happened, and how does it work with not every ship having the gold standard and so on and so forth. So yeah, there are a couple of candidates in my opinion.
I don't think engineering is a gameplay loop. No money made by engineering. Yeah, there is.
It's a game mechanic.
And it's still a loop because there's also repair. Like they already have a gameplay loop there, or like a mission they've been toying with. Like Elliot has been stewing on this mission for a long time, which is basically like, you know those games that are like Mech Engineer or Car Mechanic Simulator, or not Mech Engineer. But my summer car. Yeah, those sorts of games. But you know, like there's those shovelware games where it's like that, but it's like tanks.
Don't insult my summer car by comparing it to shovelware.
My summer car is not what I'm saying. I'm saying like there's like tank engineer, where it's like their job is to just give you a tank and you have to do certain little things. It's the same company that makes a bunch of those. Like they have,
the simulator ones.
Yeah. I think they have a full. Well, I know they have a full version of that 4-star Citizen, where you get a junked like Connie, and your job is to repair and fix up the Connie for money, and then they'll and then send it back down on a
Oh shit, Star Flipper.
yeah.
Instead of it, yeah, you get a junked ship and then you have to repair it, or replace all the components,
Yeah, that's the
repair the
idea.
hulls, and you put a fresh coat of paint on it, and then sell it for more money. What was it? Flat Flipper or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Or
I know House Flipper. There's a couple of those ones.
House Flipper. Yeah. But Star Flipper, yeah.
This isn't a question I have on my list, but he just asked it because it's one of my pet peeves. Citizen Dance asked, CIG mentioned the silver bullet patch in ISC. Do y'all think there's an actual silver bullet that is
No.
be like a slight switch for the game to go on, or what? No.
First off, it's called the
So-
Jesus patch. Get it right.
No. So
It's life
will
by
be-
1,000 cuts.
there will be a silver bullet patch, and
called
what
1.0.
people often misunderstand is it is referring to having different ammunition types for ballistic weapons. So
There we
you
go.
could
They could call that
actually
the silver
see silver
patch.
bullet in the case that so it is not confirmed, but with all the talk about silver bullets, there might be actually silver bullets because, and this is just hinting at it, yeah, because CIG might be hinting at werewolves and lycanthropy as an illness your character can contract.
Because
Hold
you
on.
you could become a werewolf and transform on the night of full moon. But the
Zark,
problem
No.
is-
Zark,
But
Zark,
we're
Zark,
werewolves
Zark,
in
Zark.
space.
Zark,
They're-
what are you on, and can I have some?
Sure,
But you have to realize werewolves in
whole
space. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for the the perfect time for it to happen. You just
Gosh,
have to move
Dash,
to a
that's what I'm saying.
specific point.
Because we are a space game, we aren't confined by the full moon anymore.
No,
But the big problem is if you transform, your spacesuit will no longer fit you. So you have the problem if you're on
this
the
is
wrong
true.
moon. You might be transformed, but you might also suffocate.
What mushrooms did I just eat?
I do like.
but
all right,
it's not just
I'm pulling
werewolves.
this
It's
back.
vampires as well.
I'm pulling this back. I like what how Andy said it. Life by 1,000 cuts. I think that's a good way of putting it. There's no such thing as a silver bullet patch. There's no such thing as a Jesus patch. There's no patch you're going to wake up and suddenly it's playable. That's what CIG said. It's not in CIG. It's clear there's not going to be one. You're going to. You might wake up one day and go, Star Citizen is playable. But that is going to be unique to you, not to everybody else. There will be a patch that releases that is your silver bullet patch that fixes all the problems.
No, your personal Jesus.
Your own personal Jesus.
Oh,
patch.
challenge made. Someone needs to go make a video of
Yes.
that. We got AI now. We can do this clearly.
Your own personal.
I'm calling Weird Al. That's it. I'm getting him on the phone tomorrow. We got a task for you, Weird Al.
Oh God.
All right. Are we pulling Dan Monsters versus Aliens? No, we're not. Do not bring up Dan. I would be here for way too long talking about how awesome that series is. All right. Some genius asks.
I mean, if
No.
we are
No, Zark.
Moving
no.
on. The Subgenius asks, Star Citizen is Earth's future. We have NVGs, thermal optics, and systems at present. How has technology regressed this aspect of Star Citizen? Alpha.
They never said it's this Earth's future.
Yeah, that's true. But no, it's alpha. It's the reason why it's not in there. The CIG's even said that like they want to add them in there, but it's a gameplay issue. Because the answer is I've played games where NVGs or our thermals were in, and they are hacks. They are wall hacks.
Does Even Line have night vision? Does Elite
Yeah.
Dangerous have night vision?
Elite
does Elite does fine. Does No Man's Sky have night vision?
No. But
No.
Star
No.
Citizen is also considered. People still consider it realistic, which is I think is still a little optimistic since it's the game that has
night.
World
The
War II
the way night
dogfighting
vision-
with bird aliens, but
the night vision will be like every feature in Star Citizen. It will be a beam, and that beam will be called light.
Yeah.
Night vision beam, just a spotlight.
Yeah.
We already have it. We already have it.
If you want to say like how you could justify it, CIG in this universe they have sensors that work that can scan and find out people through fucking walls. So I don't think you need night vision goggles when you have personalized sonar beams, pings. So that maybe the thing as well.
Night vision is this archaic technology from 850 years ago that nobody uses anymore, and if you're lucky, you can find a semi-functional example in a museum somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just like if you take a look at what the Romans built and so on. So the old Roman cement, the original Damascus steel. We don't know how those things got done, how they made those things. So the Star Citizens, they look at old night vision goggles, have no idea how we built them, and they say, we don't need it. We have better things.
Yeah.
It's lost to the dark age of technology.
Exactly. There's ways you can justify it, and on top of that, it's also bird aliens in space. It's the real reason, the actual like in-game reason is because anybody who's played like Arma or any game where if you could have night vision or not have night vision, it's gonna like real life, it's a fucking advantage. So you don't want to have something that somebody has to have in order to play the game. Otherwise they just get absolutely killed, because that's like that leads into the whole a lot more other complicated things. But I still think they're going to have it in the game. They'll have versions of it. They just need to build it into the visors, and they'll probably make it a specific visor you have to purchase, kind of like how the combat has the HUD, the crosshair. It'll be like that.
The crosshair. You're right. Yeah.
So, yeah, and Jenny is right. We do actually now know how Roman concrete is made, because it was self-healing, and that was the cool one that we wanted to figure out. Which is, I think it was
just bigger granules of cement that when cracks form, they spread out and just filled in the cracks.
Yeah, it was one of the things they used instead of like limestone. It was like ash, volcanic ash or something.
Oh,
like that. It was a specific
and
type
seawater,
of thing.
I believe.
Yeah, it was a specific thing that when it broke, it actually expanded, and as it got older, it actually fixed all of the cracks, because as it was breaking out, it was expanding out. It was pretty cool.
Oh, good to know. So after years, we figured it out.
Yeah,
but that's
was
only
like last
very
year.
recent, like a year or two ago.
It was last year. It was like last July is when they announced it. So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
We are an educational channel here.
White ash
Now
from
you
around
know.
Naples. White ash around Naples and seawater. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Gin and Tonic asks, what do you think is the fate of the roadmap, both progress tracker and release view, and when do you think we'll know when new features are released when? That's a good question, because I am very, very certain that it's dead. I think we're not going to see the progress tracker updated, and I think the release view is going to update right before they release it to Evocati. But that's me. I'll let you.
That is probably true, because they're going to be spending, most of the year. Well, okay, they're going to be spending most of the year on fixing the bugs, surely, and that's not really juicy stuff that you want to document in a progress tracker. However, if they are really still going to deliver features, if they're still going to deliver those features like they said they were, then okay. I just don't think it's going to be the giant centerpiece anymore, because it's not going to update as frequently. There's not going to be as much stuff on it, and we're probably just going to hear what's expected in the next patch in an ISC, or in patch notes for Evo, rather than through the progress tracker. I think you're right. It's not. I don't know if I would really call it dead, but it's certainly not going to be the go-to anymore. I can't imagine it's going to be updated that much.
Hopefully, once they pivot from this bug fixing and content cycle back to features, they'll look into a new sort of implementation of the roadmap, but that's maybe not be around for at least a year. So.
I think people would love to see progress on fixing bugs that have been plaguing the game for years. Would you rather see progress on those being fixed, or just seeing those get fixed?
Yeah, there's not really a lot of progress to track on that. It's typically Bug
it's
fixed.
fixed or not.
Here's your patch.
Yeah, yeah, but they already do that. Every patch has a list
Yes.
of a bug tracker and then what bugs have been fixed. Just go
Yeah.
to Spectrum and check the.
To be honest, if
post.
they took the time to document their progress on fixing the bugs, they wouldn't be fixing the bugs. They'd be wasting too much time on documenting it.
And that was the death of bug smashers.
Yeah.
Lamented, but fondly remembered.
I think we
Yeah.
could see the progress tracker surviving simply because it tracks the progress to 1.0. But yet the roadmap as it is gone. I mean, it's already kind of died last year, even though they sort of
when they were trying to figure out what to do with 4.0.
Yeah.
You know what? The roadmap, as far as like what's going to be in each patch, might not necessarily have to go away. If they continue to stick to minor version numbers for bug fixes, they can still say, okay, engineering is coming in 4.1, but 4.1 is not the next patch. For the next several months, we're going to get 4.0, 03, 04, and 05.
Let me rephrase it. The roadmap is no longer a roadmap; it's a patch overview.
Yeah.
It's not even laid out a traditional roadmap where this, then this, then this. Then it's not a road to anything. It's just a list of features, which is not the same. So, I'm personally of the opinion that that's a good thing. I think if CIG shuts up more and speaks less and shows up more, they would be
put up and shut up.
Yeah, they would be in a better position, because I personally believe that last year was seen as a bad year only because of setting expectations. If you look at what was actually added into the game between 3.2, 3, 2.4, and 4.0, people would be ecstatic. The problem why people were mad was because 3.23 came late, was gutted in half, and then half of it became 3.24, and then 4.0 came late, was gutted in half, and now we have 4.1 or whatever engineering coming in later. And I think that set the sour expectations.
Software development is very hard. I'll be honest. I give CIG credit for being able to predict it as far out as they do, because it is not easy. There's always things that you run into that you didn't anticipate that drag things out. And if you make all these promises, especially to such a picky and large audience as Star Citizens are, you're going to disappoint them when you can't deliver. And it's not really their fault. It's not like somebody screwed up. It's just that software development is complicated, and especially on a project this big.
Which means that
I think if you take a look at the people who know what to expect from CIG, who already have set their expectations, how those things are. I mean, I'd say most people on Captain's Table. There weren't a lot of us who were disappointed with how the year went.
No.
Who expected how it goes. On the other hand, if you take a look at Spectrum, at the places where the people not necessarily have much of an insight in what's going on, maybe people that are only with the project for 2-3 years, they have high expectations. They say, "Oh, that's all that's coming this patch. Whoa, awesome!"
Yeah,
and then reality hits.
And
I think there's a big divide between the, I'd say, old guard that plays Star Citizen since 10 years, and the other people who are either new or more distant to the project. And it really
hello,
gives,
puppy.
and that really because last year wasn't a bad year.
No, that's my point. And I think it was really just setting expectations. And if CIG sets expectations properly, which is they need to, in my opinion, now that they've kind of laid out what they want to do, is basically just not say anything. Like 4.1 comes when 4.1 comes, and when it comes, just No Man's Sky this thing. Have Chris Roberts tweet, a spanner, and then you drop 4.1 engineering update, and then just boom, then people just go, "Oh my god!" and just
exactly.
Out. That's
sometimes it's nice to be surprised.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to be surprised, especially when the surprise is something to be surprised about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
also, I have a question. What's this guy's name?
This is Rusty.
Rusty.
This was number 2 in the age range. We got another one underneath this one.
Oh.
He's he's past his dinner time, so that's why he's coming to get
He's
me.
hungry.
Okay. He hungry.
We're
Yeah,
we're
okay.
almost done. We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 questions
4,
left.
5, 6, 7. Yeah.
Well, Escape asks, what's the worst, most annoying bugs you've personally experienced this week? Well, Raider, you've been saying you've been staying away from Star Citizen.
Yeah, I mean that's a perfect answer. I've been
Yeah.
staying away because they're all annoying. You know, when you get the time to get in the game and play, and you try to do something basic like calling your ship and loading cargo, and your ship doesn't come up, or it explodes, or the cargo elevator doesn't work. That's, you know, I am clearly not the only person who sees the defeat in that.
Yeah.
And I'm just taking a break, which is smart for anybody to do. Don't get pissed off and frustrated. Find something else to do and just wait a little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I've recently been playing Mario 64. I installed a native client on Windows with everything updated, and it's amazing what you can do. When you unlock the frame rates, it just goes insane
Yeah, 'cause
because all the
it's
animations, all
links
the
to it.
physics is tied to the frame rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old game. But yeah, I actually haven't been playing that much, so I've been missing out on all the pyro stuff as well. So maybe I actually have to fix that.
For me, it's the ASOP terminal bug where you try to pull up a ship and it's there and it says and
Yeah.
it just goes gathering it and then just goes loading, failed, and it's like because it's so random, it'll work
Yeah.
on the same terminal. And then it'll stop working randomly, and then you wait like 5 minutes, or you go leave and you come back, and then something works again. It's such a random bug, and it's so like, yep, I'm done.
I must say I don't have had a lot of bugs, despite actually playing quite a lot the last week or so, or the last 10 days.
Mhm.
The most common bug I have is elevators. Like, they're it depends. I feel like there are 2 or 3 different ones. One where one elevator is just stuck at a person's hangar and none of the elevators work. The most common one I find is one elevator does not work, but if you go to the one next door, it does for some reason.
Yeah.
The most frustrating has to be when I was trying to load my Ursa into my Carrack and it just exploded. Just like that.
The most infuriating bug I personally experienced recently was getting shard locked.
Ugh. Yeah. Which, CIG doesn't
Yeah.
know what that means, but apparently they do now. Thankfully.
Yeah. So in the end, after 2 weeks of not being able to actually even load into the game, we discovered that the fix to that is to load in on a friend of yours.
Mhm.
And then you'll be released from the old shard, because if you just try to log into the game normally, it will constantly try to load you into a shard that potentially just doesn't exist anymore.
Mhm.
And then just nothing happens. So when you force into a new shard, then you can start playing again. So I think a lot of my excitement for playing the game died when I just couldn't log into the game at all.
But I believe the shard lock bug is fixed now.
Well,
They talked about it on
fixed.
STL.
Yeah.
Fixed. Yeah.
For now.
I think it says that in the patch notes. Possible fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a new thing that they've been doing.
Yeah.
Like for the past week only or so. It's just possible
Yeah.
fix, which
Yeah.
which I guess makes sense, because they've been saying for a long time that bugs aren't errors.
The
Bugs
issues
are
is this is
symptoms of errors.
this is a multiplayer game, and it's very hard to surface these bugs until you play them at scale and you test the infrastructure
Yeah.
that's
That as
being
well,
used
yeah.
to deploy them. So you got to put it in a live environment till you really know for sure that you've got it.
All right.
Yeah.
We got
If
3
you
questions
want
left.
to if you want to listen to all of this in a more concise way, just watch the latest SCL, where Benoit goes in a lot of detail, a lot more efficiently and more expertly than either all of us could combined.
Yeah. Next question comes from Escape, who asks, do you believe that the F7CR 1 or 2 will fit into, or how do you believe it will fit into exploration? Or do you expect CCC abilities separate from exploration?
What's the R?
The tracker.
The tracker.
Racing? Oh, the tracker.
So
Um,
I
Good,
don't
Zach.
think it's an exploration ship per se, simply because of the limited range it has as a Hornet. It is more designed to be command and control, so some sort of managing a squadron of fighters, maybe relaying orders, maybe relaying sensors. So I wouldn't. You could classify it as exploration, but I see it as a recon vessel. So like you did one quantum jump ahead of the fleet, or you're flying 200 kilometers ahead of the rest of your squadron and scan and send back data or something. Because for exploration, you do need some sort of endurance, and not just in terms of fuel, but also in terms of food, drink,
independence, yeah.
and that's something you will struggle to fit into the tracker.
Yeah,
Uh,
any single seater sheep, yeah.
Yeah, I do think it'll
Sheep,
have
sheep, not ship, sheep,
Sheep.
specifically.
I
Yeah.
think it does have some range. I think scanning is really going to be, and scanning is going to be universal. Maybe CIG will actually bear down on scanning and have the difference between, you know, scanning for ships, scanning for the anomalies, scanning for life forms, little life forms.
Life forms. God damn it!
I was waiting for someone to do that.
Those sorts of things. So maybe there'll be different scanning versions for it or whatever. But like, I think the tracker has a place for that. But it's mostly a command and control ship. It's designed to help coordinate other ships together. So, what do you think, Radar?
I'm going to agree with all of that. I think it's going to be it should have a specific role focused on ships. What maybe if it's a tracker, it's got tracker right in the name. We need to be able to have a way to identify where ships have quantum to if you want to chase after them.
Long range.
So if there's or like in Elite Dangerous, they have some kind of a piece of equipment you can add to your ship that lets you follow someone through a jump tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be a good use case for that ship.
But if you're doing it as a CNC ship, there needs to be a system of relaying all the information that it.
They did talk about that. They
to the
specifically
main,
mentioned
like the flagship of the fleet.
I don't remember where, and somebody here who's got access to the archives at their fingertips should look up and see where they did specifically reference that is obviously one of the intentions that they need, you know, for like the Terrapin and things like that.
Yep.
They'll be able to scan and then relay that data back to a fleet. Yeah, that'll be very cool when they finally get that in play.
I do like the idea that Scott made, and I think that's the simple answer is just if you have if you're in a party with an F7 and you're within range of it, it will expand your sensor range. So it'll just like as if it's like as if you're being fed all of the information. You just have a big bubble. Now the bubble exists over all of the party members, so you see everything that they see. You know,
in the Battle of Vega in Squadron 42, do we see
there
any
are some trackers
sort of
in there, yeah.
and trackers, or is it basically just whatever the Bengal sees, the Bengal reads?
You see everything.
Can display in it.
You see everything, the whole battle.
So it's hard to say what is relayed by what, but in the Hornet Squadron, there are, I think, 1 or 2 trackers.
They do show the trackers in there.
Okay.
I think they're Mark II trackers too.
All right. All the Hornets are Mark IIs, yeah.
Yeah. Carlos 72 asks, after the change or target to playability for this, when do you expect to see the first Eva Kadi or live versions of crafting and base building? I'll take the one question. I'll jump on that grenade.
Do it.
Last time I tackled the one question, I owed Paul a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, but you paid. I still have it too. So like when
it's gonna be 10 years old soon.
Yeah.
Jump on it, Paul.
So
life is nothing without taking risks.
All right. So I'm going to put in my crystal ball and say the first version of base building and crafting will still be done by the end of this year.
I gotta second that. At least Evo. Somebody said Evo.
Yeah.
Evo. Yeah. Okay. Evo. Sure. Yeah.
It's not going to be the full crafting. It'll be a couple of shacks and a stick. I think a couple of shacks and a resource collector. I think I originally said it was going to be earlier, but with this new information of like how they're approaching things, where they have this Joker card system where anybody can pull it
Oh,
out
yeah,
and
yeah.
get work on it. I think that's going to slow down that development, but I still think
Yeah.
it's still going to be on track for the end of this year. A new basic version, which people will play with and then forget exists because it's not really going to give you much. But yeah. What do you think, Sark?
I'd say crafting I can see, especially paired with the first crafting ship.
Mhm.
Something medium sized maybe. Base building I'm not sure, simply because there's still it still seemed to me like there's a lot of things required for base building which might get delayed further due to all the jokers. So I can see it happening in Evocati. Crafting could actually get into the game with a specific crafting, with a bespoke crafting ship. But for base building, Evocati maybe, though I'd probably be more cautious and lean to Q1 2026.
Okay. Darsh?
No, I'm not doing the one.
Not doing it?
But
Okay.
no, but I will say that when they do, I hope they don't do just the hover trolley. They do the one tier up above it. The Atlas
vehicle?
platform. Yeah, the
Mhm.
Atlas
I don't
platform
think
one.
they're not doing an Atlas.
that-
I
that
think they
is-
took that away.
But I
think they said
want
they're
I want the mobile construction yard.
They
Damn
do
it.
no. Well, they do. So it's the CSV and the CSR or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No,
So
but
it's
yes,
not
yes, yeah,
Atlas, but
whatever it is. But I want the mobile construction yard so I can play whenever I expand it. I want to play the Red Alert
Construction
March.
complete.
Yeah, the music as well
Work
and everything
complete.
is just yeah.
I
That's
love
gonna.
it.
Yeah.
All right. The last question
I
is
have
from
dreams. I have dreams.
the last question is
Oh,
from
yeah.
Gin and Tonic, who asks, "Don't you think that if we could go out and mine or salvage or run bounty hunter missions or cargo missions or any other in-game loops reliably, it will make up for the lack of new stuff?"
no.
Yes.
It will.
You don't think so, right?
I'm gonna say no because I've been at this for 10 years now, and I've had enough of a fill of playing the loops to experiment with them.
Mhm.
I
needs to be
still
a
don't have
reason for
anything
it.
to do with them.
Yeah.
There needs to be a reason for it. I
yeah,
had the
okay,
fun
yeah,
mining,
yeah.
but it's like I want to do something with it.
I think
But
that's
that's
where,
just me. That's me.
I think that's where the narrative comes in. I think if you did a narrative
Yeah.
loop and you said you get X thing for doing narrative loop, people go, I do narrative loop just because I want to complete it,
I think we have to split the question a bit because on the one side, I know what you mean, Andy, and I think if we say, okay, if it's just those loops but they work without bugs, is this enough? I agree with you under this assumption, saying no, we need the crafting, we need something to do, we need something to invest. If we take this under the umbrella of, is it enough to just make what we have bug-free and smoothly running without adding massive new features this year? Would this be enough? And they would say yes. If we get all those loops running perfectly for this year, that is enough to compensate for any lack of feature.
Just to qualify what I said, there's going to be plenty of people who would be happy with that because they haven't really had their fill of playing these game loops because of the bugs. But I mean, like I said, I've been at it for so long. I've played them to my heart's content. Until they turn into something useful. There's definitely going to be a segment, significant segment of the population, the player base that would be happy to be able to have a chance to play these game mechanics without the bugs.
Especially because we who are the old guard are in the minority.
Yeah.
CIG is well right to cater to new people, and new people need a stable game, even though it's not feature complete or game loop complete. They primarily need a stable game when they first log in.
I mean, we consider randomly dying and exploding a stable game.
Yeah.
Jaded as we are, so
Oh, let me just respawn. I'll be right back, guys.
Like I said before, we got jaded and we can see past those bugs. But someone who just logs in for the first time and can't get to their ship in the first
Yes.
hour of gameplay is just may
That-
not even want to pick it up again.
That is critical.
That's it. Thank you so much for joining us for this After Dark, aka After Dark.
Paul, I
section.
have to add one last thing now that we are done. I already talked about lycanthropy,
Oh God.
but then is already hinted, because if we take a closer look at the lore in the Hades system, talking about the Spectres, it is hinting at possession. And if we can control this possession, and if we
I've muted him. I'm gonna move forward.
Don't we get Venefica on your ass?
Thank you for joining us. If you did enjoy this, make sure you check out Zark. You can find Zark at my Discord, where he hangs out with us doing League expeditions. You can hang out. You can check out Radar Rangers application. My Radar, a great app, and of course follow him on Blue Sky to figure out more of the content that's coming out for Star Citizen and his YouTube. You can check out Darj at darjanator.com or jrdf.sc. And if you enjoyed this, you can check us out live on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/@TheCaptain'sTablePodcast. We'd love to have you come and join and add your own questions here live. And thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
And also wherever you get your pineapples.